Welcome back, everybody, to the last chance qualifier here for the Wild Rift EMEA Championships. Yesterday, we saw our finalists from the open bracket RICS take to the Rift once again, bouncing back from their 0-3 defeat to Gamelord, getting themselves back on track to Barcelona. It was a very convincing series from RICS, bringing some new meta, some of the old meta from the patch that we'd seen, for them to go 2-0 past Clash Spain and put themselves into the next round of the last chance qualifier. Of course, they weren't the only teams playing yesterday. As in our second series of the day, it would be Team Queso facing off against Team Dark. And Team Queso, there were a few struggles in the early game, but generally managed to settle themselves off. Fantastic performances as expected from Andre from the jungle. He is that jungle carry that we've come to know and love through Wild Rift EMEA Championships. And it happened again on the Jax, the quadra kills. He was empowered by the rest of the team, bringing us the Jax, bringing us some different stuff. And Team Queso also advancing through the upper bracket. We've got 4 more teams taken to the Rift today. Let's find out who is advancing in the last chance qualifier as the show begins right now.
Welcome to the official RICE Games Wild Rift EMEA Championship.
Everybody round here know we get hype. Everybody round, everybody round, everybody round, everybody round.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Last Chance Playoffs. It is day 2 of our double bracket system to see who else will be advancing to Barcelona. We know the Gamelord are already there, but we still need to figure out the rest of the teams going to our finals. I'm Stress, joined by Hell's Devil and Carmeline. And before we get into the games, we just want to jump into a video where Stuart will tell us how some of our teams made it to the Last Chance Qualifier.
Hello everyone, it's Stuart here, and some of you may or may not know there is a wildcard team that qualified for the European Last Chance Qualifier. Let's take a look and see how it all played out. The Wild Rift EU Series was a community tournament organised and run by Purge Tournament. 58 European teams battled it out in open qualifiers, where the top 8 teams would make it through to the playoffs for a chance to earn their spot in the WREC Last Chance Qualifier playoffs, which is the official Riot Games Wild Rift Regional Championship, as well as a share of $2,000. The top 8 teams played in a double elimination bracket over 4 days of epic Wild Rift action.
That's it! That triple kill, he is legendary.
Where we saw some interesting pocket picks like Trendamere and Diana Jungle, last-ditch Nexus defenses, crazy comebacks, and so much more.
But he cannot because FMG is moving as a unit 4 champions down.
Zero Zone started as the underdogs of the playoffs, but shocked everyone when they took down teams like Formulation Gaming and Gamelord, not once, but twice. However, it was last year's European representatives, Team Queso, who would beat Zero Zone in the grand finals, staying undefeated throughout the entire tournament, not dropping a single game, that locked their spot in the WREC Last Chance Qualifier playoffs. This was fortunate for Team Queso because they did not make it through to the top 4 of the WREC playoffs, falling to Formulation Gaming in the lower bracket.
Team Queso are absolutely done.
But now they have one last chance to earn their spot to go to Barcelona. Who will make it to the grand finals in Barcelona?
Well, there you have it. That was Queso's journey. And yesterday they looked pretty good. Carmeline, I know you and I went on the broadcast, so I'll give you an opportunity. What are your thoughts on Team Queso now coming through the last chance qualifiers and winning their first round?
Finally, you know, I was expecting this. I was waiting for this. I said it 1,000 times. I want to see Andres and Acolyte finally pop up, and they did. So I'm really happy about it. Really excited to see them advance. And, well, let's see if they can keep up the momentum. can they?
Yeah, we'll have to keep a look because we are running through another double bracket system. So, of course, it doesn't mean that one loss puts teams out. Let's take a look at our brackets and have a look at the last chance qualifiers. Yesterday, we saw RICS and Team Queso advance, and Hells, they looked pretty strong, both RICS and Queso yesterday.
Yeah, they looked incredibly strong. And we talked about it yesterday, right? This patch seems to be benefiting both these teams a lot, right? Like, they have the mechanically skilled players that can pull off the champions that are going to be good in this patch. So, also, you know, as you said, the second chance. Clash Spade against Team Dark, they're going to have a long route to go to reach that grand finals. They have to win every single game because when you're out in that loser bracket, there is no more last chance qualifier, right?
Exactly. This is it. So today's games, ViV, Formulation and Control are the teams that I think people will be familiar with by name. We'll jump into the rest of our teams through the rest of the day. Revenant, of course, a fairly new name coming to us, but some familiar players there. And those of you that heckin' love Keys in chat, he'll be back playing tomorrow with Clash Spain. Don't worry, you'll get your fix here on the first weekend of the last chance qualifier. So that's our bracket. That is our look at today's games. Normally now is where we jump into our predictions, and I'm kind of resolving that I'm never going to predict RICS until another finals. So RICS aren't on today, but that's my explanation for yesterday. Unanimous support for ViV on today's games, and I don't think that that's too much of a surprise. Revenant, while there are some players we recognize there, it's the second series of the day, Formulation and Control, and Hells is one of the people that predicted Control. What's your thoughts coming into that series?
You know, I always say don't do emotional predictions. I gotta be real honest with you. I did it a little bit here. But on another note, I do believe KTRL can take the game, right? Like, Formulation Gaming would be the superior team on paper. But I truly believe KTRL has it in them to win that series. And I want to believe today, and that's why I voted for them.
You're not the only believer, Carmeline. I know you believe in Control as well. But however, you're going to get ready for an interview. So you and I will jump into Control in the series later today. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. So Hells and I are going to jump into a little bit of the meta changes that we saw yesterday. So we're on patch 3.1. And but is this the glorious return of AD carries? It looked like it yesterday. I'm so happy about this.
I mean, I think it is. Teams still have to get used to it, but I truly think it is, right? Like Stormrazor got buffed, Jin got buffed. It's such a huge buff to that champion as well. And like, it opens up so many new possibilities to builds, right? To energized builds, to the crit builds. And this also opens up a lot of new AD carries to be good, like the Tristana, like the Caitlyn, and like the Jin, right? And the question is, are they going to be able to compete with the mages? Because the mages didn't really get nerfed too much this patch. So I hope that it's the return of the ADC meta, but we will have to see how it plays out. But I believe there is a very big chance.
I hope so too. Our first pentakill we saw yesterday as well, at least for the last chance qualifiers from RICS. RICS and Queso advancing, and I think there's while both teams are similar in the strength that they showed, I think we kind of expect the AD carry meta out of Team Queso, but it was actually Andre out of the jungle. They kind of blasted everybody. There's been a lot of changes with like Divine Sundera. There's Hullbreaker coming into it. So a lot of changes that are allowing our top teams a little bit more to play with this time around than we saw in the last open bracket.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the new items especially opens up new possibilities for Baron laners. And this is why I talked about the mechanically skilled teams, you know, the teams with the mechanically skilled players like RICS and Queso to really benefit from this patch, because we all know how good Random is, right? And this also perfectly suits him. I've seen it in ranked, and we saw it yesterday, how good he played the Hullbreaker, right? Like, how good he played the Hullbreaker Graves right there. And it opens up so many other possibilities, like perhaps even a Nasus pick, right? Like, it's one of my favorite champions. And now he could even be picked in competitive. And same story for Acolyte, right? He's also one of those players that can pull it off. And RICS and Team Queso advance, and I believe like they're gonna go much further. I believe it may even be a grand finals of them in the last chance qualifier, but we will have to see, Stress.
Yeah, certainly would not be a surprise to see these two teams fighting it out for some of the last remaining spots. Some really interesting picks, and I think I'm always a fan of whenever we can step towards like higher skill cap champions, higher skill cap players like succeeding. I think there were some other changes like with the experience bounce back. We'll get into it during game that I think helped that as well, because like SC7 was breaking people's ankles on Ribbon yesterday, like that 1v3s or like triple kill situation. Yeah, that's insane. That's what I love to see. That's what we love to see from Wild Rift. We are getting closer to our first series of the day, but I think it wouldn't be a weaker broadcast without hearing from somebody very insightful as well. So Carmeline is sat, I believe, with Ryu for an interview.
Hello everyone, everyone, welcome back to this interview. I'm here indeed with RE from ViV Esports. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's jump straight into the questions. I imagine today's games are going to bring a lot of pressure onto you, but I want to know what your expectations are going into this series.
I think obviously as a team coming from the top 4 in the WREC first qualifier, I think we're expected to go through against the last chance qualifying teams. So I think obviously we're going to win 2-0 today, but yeah, we cannot underestimate anyone.
Oh, to underestimate anyone, but 2-0 just because we can do it. Okay, and of course, do you want to say anything about it?
I think obviously, I think the old name was Affiliate Esports. I think the new name is, I don't remember what they call now, but they have obviously some decent players. I think 0-2 was playing fantastic in the WREC first qualifier. I think he had a game on Galio against Game Lord, I remember, where I think he was really popping off. So I think individually, I think these guys can be great, and they have obviously already shown that they're good players. But as a team, I think they have to show more to scare us.
Okay, we'll see what happens. But my last question is about what you guys are going to do. Because, of course, yesterday we saw how the meta and the patch 3.1 affected kind of what was going on during the games. But I mean, it was 50-50, so I want to know, have you guys been changing your strategies with this new patch? Are you going to be sticking to what we've been seeing past weeks?
I think obviously when a new large patch drops, you have to try and theorycraft and test out how the new things work. I genuinely don't think the meta will have changed that much. I think Mage's and bot lane is still going to be strong due to how the game works right now. And I also think that the Brutes in the top lane are still going to be the same champions, just maybe a different build path. So I think it's going to be difficult to say since the patch is so large, but for now I don't think too much has changed.
Okay, so I'll take your words, I'll keep them in my mind, but just for now I'm going to be thanking you for being in the interview and sending back to the casters. The Stress House, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Carmeline. I'm going to accept Ryu's words and I will take them in, and I promise I am listening. But I'm going to then go, well, Floor loves playing Janna, and Janna works really well as an enchanter with 80 carries. So I'm hoping we throw the mages out of bottom lane for this and we get to see some crazy stuff. However, I'll trust Ryu. He's the one that's in the team playing. So always got to have faith in that. So I mentioned some of the players here from ViV. Let's take a look at our lineups for our first series of the day. ViV, I think people are very familiar with their performance getting into finals weekend and taking Game Lord all the way to 5 games. It's Millup, Tyrus, Sharks, Kranix, and Floor. On the other side, Revenant, as mentioned, previously known as Aphelion, it's Akage, Arrogance, 0-2, Baigay, and Mei. So still, I mean, there's players here that we've seen a lot from. Baigay and Mei as a bottom lane, I've casted a number of times. So I do think it is ViV Esports favored, though, for this matchup.
Yeah, I also think it's ViV Esports. And as Ryu said, right, like Revenant has very incredible players, but they haven't showed quite enough to scare them. I really loved how he said it, right? Like he's not being overconfident, but it's just the truth, right? Like Revenant has incredible players, especially like 0-2 as well. I remember 0-2, absolutely incredible player, but are they going to be able to pull it off as a team as well? Are they going to be able to beat ViV Esports? Because we saw how good ViV was as a team. They gave the top teams a hard time. Yeah, they very nearly knocked out the winners, the eventual winners, right? Like we were in a situation where ViV could easily, I say easily, like that game 5 was very tense. But yeah, that's how good ViV are. And they were a bit of a dark horse coming into the finals weekend. I think that they're one of the strongest teams here. I would be surprised if they weren't up there with RIX and Queso fighting for some of those final spots. Before we get into the game, we've just got one last thing to do, and that's drop in with Carmeline for her key points of the game.
So today's key points are really interesting because, first of all, ViV is returning after losing a 2-3 versus Game Lord, so almost making it to the finals there in the WREC regular series. Here they are, back to take the throne, or perhaps lose it, to another team, a new team but not so new. As Free said during the interview, we've got Revenant here joining us for the last chance qualifier, taking up most of the roster from Aphelion Esports. So if you don't remember Aphelion during the WREC, it's because, well, the performance wasn't that amazing. They lost versus the Supremacy. They didn't quite perform well, and they ended up losing to Na'Vi. However, once again, they are back here to take the crown back from ViV, if you can call it like that. Of course, it's going to be quite important today talking about it. We are going to be seeing who out of these two teams will make it out alive. If they've gone to this point, it's clearly because they can do it, they deserve it. Now, another thing that I also want to talk about is that, of course, we haven't seen this matchup just yet. Aphelion didn't really get to face ViV during the WREC. And, well, this is something that we also wanted to talk about, to touch upon, because it's something that we haven't seen. So whatever expects us is going to be new, and I think that's really exciting. So, yeah, let's check it out. Back to you, casters. How's and stress?
I'm going to pick up from that last key point that flashed up for a moment, evolving meta. I think that's the best thing as we head towards our picks and bans. That's where I want to start on, because there's a few things that stayed the same. We saw, still priority on Fiora in the draft. We saw Jax have pretty high priority. And Gragas, I think, is always as impactful. And I think for ViV, Gragas is one of those picks as they've played it really well out of mid lane for Sharks. I think his Gragas has been one of the key points for ViV in a lot of their wins.
Yeah, definitely. But I also want to talk about it, Garen, because Garen did receive some changes. You know, the tanky Garen build got nerfed. But then if you go for like a full attack damage Garen build in the late game, your ultimate will do insane damage. So I'm just curious whether or not Sharks is going to be pulling that off.
Yeah.
But it's true. Yesterday we saw a lot of same drafts, really, right? Like we didn't see any sort of new picks. I don't like that. I understand it, however, because it's the first day, right? Like it's the first day of the new patch. Teams don't quite know what's good yet and what's not good, so they stick to the champions that they're good at. But now we've had a day, right? Like, and a lot of these players will have played some games. We may see some new picks.
Yeah, I think we had a small discussion on this as we're seeing jungle priority be the name of the game in the first two drafts. A lot of people were asking why was there no Master Yi yesterday. We believe Master Yi is bugged. That is a Sin Shao ban that we'll touch on in a moment. We believe that Master Yi is bugged, but as far as we are aware, there is no ban on Master Yi in that. So we also are kind of a little surprised that there wasn't any priority, because it's the kind of pick that you bring out once and it's going to win you one game and then it'll go on the ban list for the rest of the week. But somebody will see it and it'll crush through people.
Yeah, exactly. Master Yi got buffed, and I believe indeed he may be a little bugged. We haven't heard anything about him yet, but I want to see one team pull it off. Right? Like, we know Master Yi is an incredibly hard champion to pull off in competitive, because it's like kind of the low elo champion to destroy low elo players, and in high elo people just kind of know how to play against, right? If Master Yi gets potentially picked, it would be a last pick, right? Like if you can see, okay, the enemy team cannot deal with this, like this composition cannot deal with Master Yi, then you can pick it as a last pick. But as you can see, Fiora and Set, this is just the standard picks, really. Yeah,
we're heading through. We've had a couple of other bans come out. ViV actually the ones to ban Gragas away from the red side to make sure that's not a flex pick. We had Corki taken out. Fiora picked up first, Set on the side of Revenant, so of course Set can flex around a little bit. We'll see where he ends up going. Where does that leave us as well? There are a lot of traditional picks still available, a lot of 80 carries, a lot of poke from that Jace. We haven't seen the priority on the Varus that we saw yesterday, the Ziggs. Still a lot of those key picks with bot lane open.
Yeah, exactly. Like as we can see, this is basically the same all over again. This is the exact same draft, exactly what we would have expected. Ziggs being left open, of course Ziggs got picked, right? This time Ziggs did receive a little nerf, however. His third ability doesn't stay on the ground for 10 seconds now, it stays on the ground for 7 seconds.
Yeah.
Not anything major, just a tiny nerf, but still makes Ziggs a priority pick.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Morgana rounds out the last pick from the first round of these. So Revenant now have themselves the ban on the second phase. Rakan was a pick that all the way through playoffs we were talking about, don't let Ziggs Rakan happen. Don't let this bottom lane be a factor. And ViV have it with a Fiora as well. And, I've been a big proponent of, if you have a Ziggs, you just need something to pick up the kills at the end of the team fight, because he already has done the damage. And Fiora is the top type of champion for that. She'll dash around, even with the nerfs that she received. It's not going to hit her out in this game. And ViV have a very strong 3 picks to start this second phase of the draft.
Yeah, definitely. I'm expecting a Galio ban from ViV Esports right here. By the way, Revenant banned out the Vi. We know this is a pocket pick for Tyrus. You know, they don't want to see it because especially combined with the Ziggs as well. Vi's ultimate and then Ziggs follows up with his ultimate is incredibly powerful. So yeah, very respectable ban from Revenant right there. But Tyrus doesn't really mind, right? Like Tyrus can play a lot of different champions. Although the Lee Sin didn't go too well for him. We saw that before, right? Tyrus prefers these types of tankier champions, the bruiser champions. He's incredibly good at those. So they banned the way the Lee Sin themselves. They don't want to be playing up against Arrogance's Lee Sin because we saw Arrogance play Lee Sin. Incredible Lee Sin player. So both teams have done their homework here, Stress.
The interesting thing for me, though, is so we have like how many jungle bans? There's 3. I mean, Camille can jungle, not really that much. It's 4, 7 coming out of the bans.
6 or
total.
7, yeah.
Like, then you put in the fact that like Jace could jungle, but Fiora could jungle as well. That's my thing. Is like so many bans have gone towards ViV's jungle of Tyrus that there might be a pivot that makes sense. That's a Wukong.
And also a pick, Wukong.
Yeah, that's how deep we are now into jungle. That's likely Wukong jungle, I would imagine, from Arrogance.
Yeah. Like Tyrus is also a really good Wukong. Honestly, it feels like Revenant thinks ViV Esports has a weak link. They think that Tyrus would be a potential weak link regarding his player pool. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be picking. Because as you said, there are so many jungles off the table. There's no more Vi, no more Jarvan, no more Olaf, no Camille, no Wukong, no Gragas, no Xin Zhao, and no Lee Sin. He goes
I was
for
about
Graves.
to say, this could be Graves top lane, though. This could be a Graves top lane matchup like we saw yesterday out of random and say, well, screw it. We'll just take a super strong top matchup. They have the flex potential, right? It could be either one. We're likely to see a mid lane rounded out, and we do. So what this means is there's quite a heavy pick composition with like Fiora, Graves, and Ahri all working together. They can kill someone real quick. So ViV, they kind of have thrown a curveball now. They're like, well, you don't know what's going in the jungle for this matchup. So last pick whatever you want from here. It could be a bot lane, could be the Morgana going into that bot lane carry role, could also be Jace. We don't see it too much.
Yeah, Galio. Exactly. I don't understand why ViV Esports didn't ban the Galio, because Galio is such a good pick against that composition. Although Graves is one of those newer champions, right? This is a champion that wouldn't be picked in a previous patch. Stormrazor got buffed, which is a potential item on him. And then we have the Hullbreaker. As you mentioned, the Baron lane Graves with the Hullbreaker. We saw Random pull it off. Could be a potential thing. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think Tyrus is going to be playing the Graves. We'll have to see, but I'm very interested to see that, right? Like we love to see these newer champions show up, and I would love to see them perform well as well. So yeah, this is a very interesting draft.
Graves solo lane kind of terrorized top lane in PC League of Legends for a while last year, and now it seems to have come to Wild Rift. Of course, there was that change to the jungle where Graves is end of the line. His ability 1 does do more damage to jungle creeps. So there is the possibility there. I think it's one of those placebo changes that makes people think about a champion, where it's just like other people are thinking about his strengths.
The thing is, Stress, it may seem like a placebo change, but Graves has a rough time clearing out the jungle. So the buff allows him to clear out the jungle a bit faster. And even though it may only be a few seconds, right? Like it's definitely partly placebo because it's not that much. But it does help him out. It does help him out. Those few seconds, he may be a little earlier, but it's of course like nothing major. It's just a small change indeed.
I guess the reason I bring that up is like there were no specific, as far as I'm aware, there were no specific top lane changes, right? And suddenly like he gets one change, and now people are like, hang on a second, he was really strong anyway, so we can do these other things with him. So there's always those fun things whenever a patch happens. You read the patch notes and you're like, oh, that's a cool change, but it probably won't change much. And then somebody looks at it in a completely different way. And we saw yesterday like Random demolishing games. I think you were saying that you were in a game with Random, or was it Stuart was in a game with Random when he did it?
So I was in a game with Random. He had 25,000 gold on the Graves 21 minutes into the game. He pushed 2 inhibitor turrets, and I believe that kind of had an impact on how Graves is set in the meta. And indeed, Millip playing the Graves. And this is one of those players that I absolutely love to see on those champions, right? We saw Millip on the Camille. We saw Millip on the Darius. These were 2 champions that got target banned against him after the enemies saw how he played it. And now we're going to be seeing him on the Graves. And this makes me absolutely love this game, Stress, because this is such a skilled Baron laner. This is what I mean with the new patch. The skilled players are really going to be benefiting from this patch. So let's see if Miller benefits from it as well in this game.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep our eyes on that Baron lane. Double knockup by Floor. Here we go. Another one of our mechanically gifted players coming from that bottom lane role on supports. Gets the double knockup, forces the flash out, exchanges it, I should say, for his ignite. But I think this is one of the things I like about this patch and the way that it's moved is we see ViV taking what was good on the last patch and is still good of the Ziggs Rakan, and then kind of twisting everything on the top side of the map with the new meta. They haven't just completely thrown the rulebook out. They've actually adapted and said, hey, let's put these new strong things with what we already knew was really good, because getting Fiora Ziggs Rakan on the last patch would have been unthinkable here in Europe. That's like draft diff immediately.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, it kind of feels like a draft diff right now as well. The Rakan and Ziggs is still incredibly powerful. As you can see, there is a little skirmish in the Dragon lane, but ViV Esports is already winning this skirmish, and that's not a good sign for Revenant, because if you get that Rakan Ziggs to the late game, we've seen what it can do, right? We've both seen what it can do, and it's not good news for Revenant.
Yeah, and the times that it struggles is when there's no other damage there. Well, we've got a Graves who's going to be really strong on the side lane. We've got a Fiora who will easily be able to dash around the fights. I think that the one thing that we have to look for there is, like, for Revenant, what does their composition do? And, I mean, there's the possibility that you have, like, a Jace or a Set pop off in team fights. You've got a lot of crowd control there. Like, the Black Shield gives you room to work. But I think with this likely Hullbreaker later in the build Graves, I wouldn't be surprised for ViV to avoid a lot of team fights and just let Millip do the work on the side lane.
Yeah, definitely. And besides, I want to talk about Tyrus's rotations, because yet again, he's done a full jungle clear, Stress. And this is a thing that we don't see too often, but Tyrus does it a lot. He does it very, very often. And I feel like it may start to get a bit dangerous for him, because enemies will see it coming. If you do proper homework against ViV Esports, you can expect Tyrus to do a full jungle clear, which opens up possibilities for some very aggressive early game ganking, or perhaps even early game invading. And Tyrus, yet again, he doesn't go for ganks. As you can see, he goes for another jungle clear. And he is only 50 gold ahead. But you know what's funny? Arrogance did the exact same thing. It's like they're shaking hands on the jungle. We talk about shaking hands on objectives, but these teams are shaking hands in the jungle, Stress.
I'm not much of a fan of that against the Fiora, who once she gets her items is just going to eat things up. Now, look at the top lane gold difference, already 200. It was a little bit higher in that, as Millip had got a longer lead. I think interesting thing here, correct me if I'm wrong, yesterday it was Black Cleaver into Bloodthirster into Hullbreaker. This time it looks like Millip is just going Bloodthirster, likely then into Hullbreaker or Black Cleaver. I guess it's because he's not against a tank, right? Jace doesn't build a whole lot of armor, so you just need Life Steal to eat through that lane.
And that's exactly the thought process. Although we have Rakan going in.
Yeah, I don't think they can convert this onto Baige, although it does pop the quickness, the ultimate, as Floor takes damage in response, does dash out, actually bypasses May, but will get taken down. Mega Inferno Bomb picks up one. This is a good opportunity for Revenant to maybe look at picking this up, as the Tormented Soil is ticking down. Kranix is going to back away. It's a 1-for-1 overall.
And great job by May with that ultimate. And touching upon the Grace build, indeed, like exactly as you said, you either go for the Bloodthirster, but I don't think we have time to talk about it because Arrogant is looking for some blood.
Yeah, we'll check back in on that once we actually have some items completed, perhaps, as ViV are going to contest the Rift Herald from here. Arrogance is around, though, has the ultimate, and they know Baige has his ultimate as well. So there's this moment in the game for Revenant. They could have taken a fight, but ViV, they're going to disengage. This is what we were talking about.
Yeah, and the thing about Revenant is they could have taken a fight, but they have. This is why I like to talk about builds. You know, 2 Rod of Ages on your team, although they have 3 Black Cleavers finished.
I haven't seen this in a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while too. No
Knock
one has boots.
Yeah, everybody's slow as hell right now, and there's no armor anyway. So this Black Cleaver, I mean, yes, you will just get through to the base armor, but like, how much of impact is that actually going to have in this game? It's a little excessive.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Millip, exactly as you touched upon, you know, Bloodthirster, you go for it if you're not up against tanks. Although you have to understand that Galio, Set, and Wukong are going to be building tank later on in the game. So even though the Bloodthirster makes sense into the matchup that he's up against right now, he will need the Black Cleaver fast. I don't think he's going to be going for the Hullbreaker second, perhaps as a third item, because without the Black Cleaver, he's not going to be able to shred through the front line of Revenant.
Oh, that's a beautiful combo from the Rakan ultimate into the Mega Inferno Bomb. 0-2's going to Haymaker to keep himself alive, puts the damage touchdown, kicking, but it's not going to be enough to pick up the kill. Grand challenge under the tower means May will back themselves away. ViV, they took the Rift Herald, they get a kill, and they forced back Revenant right in time for that Dragon. It's been up for 2 minutes, now they're going to take it.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we talked about, right? The Rakan combo with Sharks as well on that Aura. You can charm after the charm, and then you have the follow-up from Cryonix with his ultimate. It's just unbeatable, really. The only thing that you can do is the Black Shield of the Morgana, but you can only give one champion a Black Shield in this game.
Yeah, it's not enough to save the entire team. And the fact that both kills have gone on to Cryonix is going to make these initial Mega Inferno bombs in fights really hurt. And that'll allow gold. Whoa, that's a solo kill. The solo bolo killed from Akagi. That's actually not something we were expecting. Graves, we were hoping in, theory crafting it, that he would be very strong on the side lane, but wasn't able to survive. Oh,
yeah, here we can look into the replay, how it actually happened. It seems like Milip went a little too deep under the turret, and he's trying to kite him, which Graves is really good at doing, but Akagi just destroying him, really. Milip had no chance to win that, and Milip going way too far. You cannot go that deep.
Yeah, that's a little overextension. Charm under the turret. Arrogance, of course, revealed by the turret as well. Speaking of going too deep, perhaps it was Revenant going too deep, or maybe it's enough for them to turn around as Tyrus couldn't quite pick up the kill. Into the backline goes Floor. The support is now the carry, picking up the first kill from this one. Mega Inferno Bomb is not going to hit the spot, but what it will do is allow ViV to back themselves away after picking up another kill. Ziggs now pushing the middle lane. Graves pushing the top lane for Milip, and despite the solo kill, it's going to be first towers going over to Milip.
Yeah, and I hope Revenant's coach has some notes by his hands right now, and he's writing down: "Do not give Fluor Rakan." Boom.
Yes.
Just write it down and put that there so you never forget about it. I think that would be a very good idea, because Fluor with an absolutely amazing engage, securing his team all of the kills. And as you can see right there, Arrogance was barely able to escape, but Fluor coming from the top with the Rakan, destroying all of them. And as you can see, then it's just easy peasy kills. And they got 3 kills. All because of Fluor's engage right there. If Fluor was not there, they wouldn't have gotten it. And Rakan is one of the only champions that can do something like that. Obviously, Alistar being another one that can do similar things. But Rakan is just much, much faster and much, much more mobile with it. You don't want to be giving Rakan over to ViV Esports anymore, Stress.
Yeah, and a really significant consequence of that play on the bottom lane is not only losing top tower, which was expected, losing mid tower at the same time really hurts. Like, that's rare to do, and it's another pick on the side lane. Like, once again, Fluor and the rest of this lineup. We talked about picks, look how far away they are from Milip. This is how ViV want to play this game, is like they commit to the side lane, and then Milip is going to be causing problems the other side as well.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at their playstyle right now, I am actually expecting a whole breaker to come through from Milip, but Fluor is looking for
double
some
charm, double knock up, and it's no double trouble for this, as Arrogance caught under the tower will get the ultimate from Baige, but it's the tower that's fallen. Milip died again?
Yeah, Milip is dead. Akagi picking up Milip yet again. I believe we're likely going to be seeing a replay of how that happened, but Akagi is showing Milip who's the boss in the Baron lane right now. He's not allowing Milip on that Graves to get ahead. And this may pose a problem for ViV Esports, even though they're actually ahead by like 8,000 gold. Let's take a look at how it happened. Milip is even a level ahead. So Akagi goes in, Milip near sights him, but Milip just loses. He just straight up loses the damage game, as you can see. He nearly won, but it's just not quite enough. And I believe that's because Akagi had items and Milip was just sitting on a lot of gold. So even though Milip got ahead, he was probably sitting on a lot of gold. And there it is. He got the whole breaker. This is what we talked about. I don't like it because he doesn't have the Black Cleaver, although there's not much armor yet on Revenant. But with the whole breaker, he shouldn't lose against Akagi anymore when he's alone, Stress.
Yeah, and Akagi had picked up, I'm going to assume it was before that fight, had picked up an Executioner's Calling to kind of eat through that Bloodthirster. So as you said, that itemization difference really making an impact there. I mean, for Milip, he's died twice solo now, which really shouldn't be happening. So he's like, okay, Hull Breaker is going to make me stronger. I'll win the next fight. Everything's going to be okay. Rift Herald going over to ViV, then Dragon will be spawning in another 8 seconds, so they will be able to transition that down if they want to. And this is objective control just completely going ViV's way in this game. This is, even with the fights going against Milip, ViV is still in a dominating position.
And it seems like Milip is... No, I was just going to say, like, there's no way Milip goes to the Dragon here, right? Like, when you have that whole breaker... Like, the best thing Milip can do right now is pushing that top lane, but it seems like he is just wandering around the mid lane. And you can see the little effect next to him, right? Like, if a teammate gets close, he doesn't get it anymore. And what this effect does is it buffs the big minions in your wave. It buffs you, it gives you bonus armor and bonus magic resist, and it allows you to deal bonus damage to turrets. So it's incredibly important to be alone. And as you can see, now he is alone. should be an easy fight against Arrogance.
Yeah, you'd think so. Miller perhaps should have won the last one. Arrogance is going to take the fight. That is some arrogance on its own there, as you do not want to face against a Hullbreaker. Suplex comes through, but Floor is able to just dash his way out, reverses it exactly as he needs to. And despite the fact that that went in the way of Revenant to start, look at the distraction they're causing. Is it's a Rift Herald in the bottom lane. It's Graves pushing through the top side. Floor is going to be able to jump his way back over that ledge. Oh, actually gets a good satchel charge from Kranix. They dodge the shock blast and they're putting the damage down on the back end. Kranix just has to play carefully. That bomb is not going to delay the push as it's a bottom lane. There goes the first inhibitor of the game. And Tyrus has found 2 low health targets. It's not enough for 0-2. Does get a black shield. Gets the Galio as well. But it's a top tower that's going to go in exchange of Millip. And middle lane, Kranix is still fighting with Floor. Everything is going Viv's way. Despite the fact that 1 kill went to Revenant, Viv have just destroyed the structures.
This is it, Stress. This is it. This is the change of playstyle that I wanted to see. You wouldn't see this in the last patch. In the last patch, everyone just goes for the objectives. But in the recent patch, they also nerfed the dragons, by the way. We haven't touched upon this yet, but they've also nerfed the dragons. So what we're seeing ViV Esports do right here is essentially the perfect 1-3-1. 1-3-1 meaning putting 1 champion in the top lane, 1 in the bottom lane, and then 3 in the mid lane. Tyrus with a Rift Herald pushing an inhibitor, and then Millip with a Hullbreaker pushing top lane. And then we have the Ziggs, Kranix on the Ziggs, which is one of the best champions to have in a 3 versus 3. And they took the mid lane turret from Revenant already, so they can just chill behind their mid lane turret and waste time. They got like 3 turrets for that, and they got some kills. 11,000 gold ahead. 11,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, and they want to end this as 0-2, so one that's been caught out. Mega Inferno Bomb is going to delete with Ari's help. And Millip and Tyrus, well, it's Tyrus that's here in this engage, as Floor does get blocked on his entry here. Grand Challenge is not quite going to complete, and in comes Arrogance from the side. Graves, meanwhile, might just look to push and end the game, but he's actually going to go for the flank himself. He bought a Stormrazor off the last fight, and he's looking to unload it as Millip is going to dart back to the bottom. He still has that Hullbreaker. He's 1 versus 4. I don't think that they can really do enough damage because the rest of the team has already transferred over towards the Baron. Like, that's how much control Millip has, despite the fact the solo kills, despite the fact that he has not necessarily played the cleanest game. He demands respect in this and is allowing Viv enough space to just do anything they want on the rest of the map.
Yeah, and they're just not gonna kill him here. Like, he's got to the point, like, when you get to this point with Graves, when you're so ahead, they just can't kill him. They literally cannot kill him. Like, they would need like 3 champions to do a perfect team fight to kill him. So I love this playstyle from ViV Esports. They just got a free Baron. Millip is able to push them away, right? Like, because they cannot get close to Millip. This is exactly how you want to play as ViV Esports. They're really executing their composition perfectly. Like, it seems like ViV Esports is also one of those teams, right? Like, we talked about RIX and Team Queso really benefiting from this patch. But it seems like ViV Esports benefits as much because of this patch. Because even though Millip being 0-2, look at his gold count, 13,000 gold.
Floor, he had nobody in view, and he was just like, I know they're around here somewhere. I'm just going to go for the engage. Baige, he brought himself to his own doom, as that's going to be Floor taking out the support from Revenant, and this is all but done as all of the inhibitors are down. Millip is going to go aggressive and just eat through the health bar of Akage. He forced out the barrier. It wasn't quite enough. Suplex into the fountain, but it's going to be the end of the game before the kill even converts, and that's a game 1 going over to Viv. Not perfectly clean, but very convincing is what I would say from that. Millip dropped a couple of deaths, there were a few deaths here and there, but Viv ultimately just looking really strong.
Yeah, yet again, ViV Esports with the excellent macro game. We've seen it from them before. Their macro game seems to be like one of the best, maybe even the best in Europe right now, to be honest. They seem to have understood the new meta already, and they're bringing it to the enemy. And then, how do you play against this? How do you play against this super powerful Hullbreaker Grace matchup? Like, I honestly don't know. We're going to have to see one of the teams do it.
Yeah, I wonder whether there are some other matchups that you can play into that we just don't know yet. I think he was gifted a little bit as well, because so we talked a little bit about how he skipped Black Cleaver and ultimately kept skipping it. There was one armor item, I think, by the end of this game on the side of Revenant, and you're like, well, he's just going to eat through everyone. There's no real way of anybody staying alive, and that's the problem. Like, this Graves does so much damage that even when it dies twice solo, he still is able to just push all the towers down and basically win the game for Viv.
Yeah, definitely. He decided to go for the full damage build, the Storm Razor build. And now looking at the compositions, it actually makes sense because Sharks and Chronics have heavy AP damage. So as the composition of Revenant, you cannot really be building armor against the Graves. Like, I didn't actually notice that before, but it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense then. So as a Graves, you can get away with going for full crit and dealing a ton of damage because the enemies are just not going to build armor. And if they do build armor, right, like they're going to be struggling against the mage carries. So actually very, very smart build right there from Millip to be going for the full damage and the full crit approach.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned 1-3-1 team compositions. I think one of the things about that is generally the way you punish them is like being able to engage on the 3 and punish heavily. Now, the problem with that is like Kranix and Floor were so far ahead, and like Tyra's is very strong, Sharks is pretty strong. Like, you can't take those fights either. And that really makes it difficult. And from the draft, we like seeing Fiora, Ziggs, Rakan, we both were like, wow, those are 3 strong picks. You can't let that kind of thing over. And you can see how it punishes. It gave them such security that then, you know, Tyras and Millip were able to just have any kind of impact on the game they wanted. They could just take everything.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as you can see, Akage dealing 16,000 damage, actually. That's a lot of damage, but still, it just doesn't work. And even though, like, Millip dealt the least amount of damage with the most gold in the game. And that's what I love about Hullbreaker, right? It's not all about dealing damage to the enemy. With the Hullbreaker, you're going to be pushing down turrets, and here you can see, just, it's very clean, right? Like, first 5 minutes, just steady, and then from there up and up and up and up, and they just won the game, right? Like, it was a very nice and easy win, a very comfortable win from ViV Esports. And yeah, you know, we're gonna have to see what Revenant is gonna do to beat a team like ViV Esports in the next game.
Yeah, from Revenant's side of it, I think that's one of those games where you're like, oh, we just can't quite address everywhere we're getting pushed. And those games are really hard to play at. I'm sure people have played it in like solo queue, or if you've been queuing with friends, like so hard to play around a team that's macroing effectively. Let's take a look at the play of the game and see where this game opened up inside of ViV's favor. There's a few it could be. I would think the engage from Fluor. Oh, it's this one actually. I thought that it was the 1 versus 3 engage, but this is the game-ending move, right? Yeah. Like, Arrogance they found Arrogance, and indeed, too much Arrogance, as you mentioned. Fluor going in, making sure they get that kill for free. And here they're just gonna be secure in the game. And look at Millip as well, pushing the top lane. They're not leaving anything. They're pushing from everywhere. And that's what I loved about this, because it was a party everywhere on the map. Like, as Revenant, you don't know what to do. Where do you go? Do you take care of the Graves? Do you take care of bot? Do you take care of her? You just don't know. It was so amazing to see from ViV Esports. At that point, there's not a whole lot you can do to turn that game around, unfortunately, aside from one Hail Mary fight. And yeah, that was game 1 between Revenant and ViV. I think I'm glad to see ViV coming out as strong as we came to expect from them, because you're never quite sure with the Dark Horse whether they can continue that momentum the next time you see them in a tournament. I now will put ViV up there as one of my teams that, like, I've seen enough to be like, yeah, I think they're going to Barcelona. So let's keep our eyes on game number 2. It's ViV versus Revenant. Let's hope I just haven't cast a curse to ViV as we head to a break and get towards game 2.
ready?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Last Chance qualifiers here. We're zeroing in on our second game between ViV and Revenant, and we saw some interesting different meta stuff. We saw some of the same things. I'm Stressed, joined by Hell's Devil. The Graves, I think we've talked about a lot. I think before we get into the game, I kind of want to zone in a little bit on the draft. First of all, though, let's head over to Carmeline and see her key points for Game 2.
Well, we've got quite a few things to talk about before the game starts, starting with the slow beginnings, and that is, well, that's got a reason behind it. Well, in the beginning of the game, we saw quite a bit of Black Cleaver, quite a bit of Road of Ages, Ludens, but what about the new items? And you might be wondering that, but of course, Hosebreaker had to make its appearance later on, dealing all the damage to the structures, and I think our casters were quite delighted by it. Let's say if in this game we can find more of this item, or if they prefer to change it for something else. Now, another thing that I wanted to touch upon was ViV's dominance during this entire game. In the beginning, they also had a little bit of a struggle in here with some solo kills from Revenant's side, but then it all snowballed up to their victory by a split pushing, another strategy that has seen its increase in popularity in this past patch. And finally, of course, we need to talk about Tyrus, one of the most valuable players from ViV. He's been performing amazingly well. He's a jungler if you haven't been watching these games, and I suggest for you to keep an eye on him, because I'm sure he'll bring us more interesting plays. But for now, that's all that I wanted to talk about. So back to our amazing casters, Stress and Hells.
And the topic I wanted to talk about was Tyrus and the draft, because if Revenant are gonna like end up with everybody between the two teams having like 7 jungle bans, and Tyrus is on Fiora, something has gone horribly wrong in the draft. Like, how does that happen? You're like, oh, let's just keep banning junglers. They've got one of the top meta ones as their first pick already.
Yeah, right. Like Fiora was already picked, and then they're like, okay, we don't want to see the Jarvan, we don't want to see this, and we don't want to see that.
Get Vi off the table, like.
But Fiora is already picked, right? Like Fiora is one of those champions. Even though she got a nerf, it's not as much of a nerf, especially for the jungle. And we're heading into the picks and bans again, and I'm expecting a change from Revenant, right? I'm expecting a change. Rakan is just not going to go through. I can say that with confidence. There is absolutely no way Revenant is going to be leaving the Rakan open.
No, they are on blue side though this time around, so we'll see whether they look to leave it open at the first pick for themselves. But there are so many strong picks right now that I think the possibility for blue side to outpick red side shouldn't happen. And I think the last draft where I was like, hey, draft diff from blue side, was a mistake, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think blue side should ever get Fiora, Ziggs, Rakan in the current meta. That's way more than you should be getting. Jungle presence still going to be the name of the game for draft 2. Olaf, Lee Sin taken off the board to start. There goes the Ziggs. It's a good start from Revenant to kind of take away some of the composition. It's part of what was causing them problems. Certainly, I think Rakan they also have to look at as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like, as I said, the last ban is just probably going to be a Rakan, or they're going to be picking it first. ViV Esports may even ban the Rakan, because, of course, you know, the blue side has the first pick, Revenant has the first pick. So one of them is going to be banning out the Rakan. It seems like Revenant is banning out the set, so they're leaving open the Rakan.
Revenant obviously values set ridiculously high. The fact that they played it on red side in first rotation and then ban it immediately. Interesting. I want to keep my eyes on that, because ViV certainly value the Fiora over it. Gragas going to get taken out. Now that has been a flex pick on red side, so interesting to see that. Obviously they have 2 other picks that they want to take on red side. Rakan would be absolutely one of them. I wonder where the second one's going to be. Camille. So now Rakan is up. Yes. Fiora is up as well. Like, Revenant have prioritized Camille over Fiora Rakan, and they just got smashed by Fiora Rakan. I'm like, maybe you should get rid of that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, to be honest, like there must be a plan behind this for Revenant, but They leave the Fiora open indeed. Tyrus destroyed them on the Fiora and then the Rakan as well. Well, the thing is, like, picking Rakan against the Camille may not be the best. As you can see, they actually decide to pick the Galio, because I was just gonna touch upon this, right? Like, if they picked Rakan here, they just get countered by the Galio Camille. But now, Revenant is also going to have a hard time picking the Rakan, because Fiora and Galio are both good champions against the Rakan. I am still expecting them to do it, because now ViV Esports can get away with the Rakan pick, because there is no more Galio. Galio is one of those champions that absolutely hard counters Rakan. So, Corky pick, actually. So still, prioritizing the strong champion with the package during the objectives. So it seems like Revenant is going to be going for those plays at the objectives. What I want to see from ViV Esports now is yet again another split pusher, right? Just give the objective, go for another Hole Breaker Graves, for example, and just destroy the opposite side of the map. Ooh.
Full on engage here, though. Jarvan, Camille for diving the backline. We'll see what else they bring here. Corky doesn't exactly benefit amazingly well from this composition, but still with the package can go in.
Jax.
There's a split pusher. So that could very well be Jax in the solo lane. It could both Fiora and Jax can jungle and solo lane is where I'll leave it. We'll see at the end of the draft where they're actually going to end up.
Yeah, it seems like this is a very heavy, also Rakan-reliant draft. Like, no team has picked Rakan, which I really love to see, because I was talking about Rakan very likely being a ban or a pick. But actually, both teams have done some very good picks, to deny that Rakan, really, because you cannot really pick Rakan against any of these teams. Also, Corky with the package can just deny the Rakan engage, for example. So very good drafts from both sides, really. Now it's up to ViV Esports to pick those split pushes. They've done already, and then up to them to play around them as well, right? Because Revenant is very likely going to be going for those objectives with that composition. So this is kind of like one team has this plan and then the other team has this plan. Which one is going to be able to pull off their plan more effectively?
I think on Viv's side of things, you want to look towards mobility from here. Like, if we assume that Galio is going to be the support, then I would want to see some kind of carry from the bottom lane with an escape. The reason being is Fiora and Jax on the side lane will win you this game already. You just need something that can play safe in the middle lane and allow your Galio to just go, oh, my Fiora is in trouble, ultimate to the side. Oh, Jax is in trouble, ultimate to the side. And you're always able to even up the numbers. So I'd be interested to see where the draft goes. If we were in a different meta, I'd be looking at a Twisted Fate mid, believe it or not, because that's another pick that can go into the side lane. It's not going to be it. It's a safe mid laner that's hard to... probably bot lane in this regard. That's fairly hard to lock down. Orianna has a lot of self-peel.
Yeah, it makes sense for them to be picking. And then Akshan, actually. Akshan. Wow. We've only seen Akshan once, I believe. I don't remember whether it was a win or a loss, but Akshan, that's a very interesting pick.
Snitch won with Akshan for Rix. There's the Janna to kind of play some disengage here. They've got engage and disengage as an odd composition. Maybe Ari will fill the gap here for Shags as
Lucian.
Whoa, okay. All right. We got some differences here. We'll see where they settle going into it. Lucian bot lane, I guess. I've been playing a lot of that myself, pretty strong, but that was pre-patch. So it could be mid as well. Can be mid. Into Akshan. Now, what Akshan forces is you don't want to play a melee matchup into Akshan. He will destroy you in lane. So again, Orianna and Lucian, both melee matches, both fairly safe as well. Like Orianna peels herself, has shields. Lucian is hard to lock down. So a lot of mobility and safety there on those middle lane and bot lane carries.
Yeah, indeed. And it really seems like ViV Esports is truly playing around that split pushing, their objective being split pushing, and then Revenant playing around the team fighting, right? With the Akshan, with the revives, etc. As I said, like, which team is going to be fulfilling their plans? We know how good the macro game is from ViV Esports. So I would be guessing ViV Esports to pull it off and just get 2 inhibitor turrets without Revenant even being able to do anything. I think that's what's going to happen. But we will have to see during the game stress.
Interesting draft, though. I'm always a fan of seeing these new picks come in. I mean, Lucian is a pick that historically has always just been like very safe, but doesn't, unless he's overtuned, he doesn't like dominate every single part of the game. He generally fell off a little bit later on the game in PC, at least. In Wild Rift, he tends to kind of not have the best like ability to put damage out in like later game team fights, as far as I'm aware. However, his laning is always very strong. Is always quite safe. And we'll see whether it's mid lane or bottom lane. I like the fact that we can have now this exchange of whether it's mid or bot between our ADs, and it's going to be a bot lane Lucian. Interesting.
It's gonna be a bot lane Lucian indeed. That's very interesting. We generally always see the if this would have been in the old meta, we would definitely see Lucian in the mid lane and then the Orianna in the bot lane, right? Like the Orianna being able to do a lot of damage. But it seems like Sharks is playing the Orianna up against 0-2 on that Akshan. Very interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of this game goes. Now, the one thing I will say is like ViV, their late game dueling, Fiora and Jax are just going to be monstrous if they get ahead. The team fighting on the other side, and Lucian, yeah, of course. The team fighting on the other side, I think, really does heavily go to Revenant for the majority of the game. There are a few tools. You've got the Galio, the Orianna, and of course Jax can stun multiple people, but like it's not quite the same as like the Java and the ability to actually get on and get a fight started.
Yeah, exactly. ViV Esports is probably not going to be looking for team fights. Like, Revenant has the better team fighting composition. They actually have the much, much better team fighting composition. Like, you cannot even compare it because only in the very, 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 very late game, I guess Orianna could carry the team fights with the Jax, right? But when we get to the mid game, you know, when everyone is around level 10 with 2 items or something, that's when Revenant is really going to be having the advantage during the team fight. So it's going to be very interesting to see how ViV Esports plays around it. And this time, Tyrus is going for a fight here.
Yeah, Tyrus is going to check into Arrogance. His Arrogance actually bypassing him and just going on Sharks. Tyrus now says, no, Counter-Strike is not quite going to land. Force the flash out, though. That's the important thing from that, as ViV have transferred floor towards the middle lane. And Bygate nearly caught by the piercing light. We're back into the other fight as Floor is not in lane. Oh, it's the swing into the taunt from 0-2. Doesn't quite work out too well for Floor, and 0-2 is the one getting the kill. Not quite under the tower. It's all gone wrong. A couple of blunders from each side. It's 1 kill apiece, but First Blood went over to 0-2.
Yeah, and I love how Tyrus didn't go for the full jungle clear this time, because as you saw, Arrogance kind of expected Tyrus to go for the full jungle clear. This is what I talked about, right? Like, it's going to be a major weakness if you do the same rotation every game. But Tyrus, especially on the Jax, you know, you can expect him to go for that. But let's take a look at this replay first. Fluor, amazing taunt, but then 0-2 with an even more amazing engage. Just such a beautiful slingshot. And then he goes for Sharks as well. And what he tried to do was catch him with the first ability, with the chakram. If he would have caught him, he would have been able to escape, but he didn't get the bonus movement speed, unfortunately, so he just died. Very dramatically stressed.
Yeah, and unfortunate, just a tiny amount of health. That's Akagi going under tower against Millip's Fiora. He's going to dash forward and run him down, getting the solo kill, returning the favor for game number 1, and that means this Fiora is active and on the board.
Yeah, this time it's Millip that's actually winning the 1 versus 1. Unfortunately, Akagi missing the hook shot, which doesn't allow him to get the bonus movement speed, and it seems like ViV may be going further, but not quite, because it's a bit too early in the game to be diving. But Tyrus is in the middle of the enemy's jungle stress.
Yeah, it's a full jungle invade. You can see that Lucian has pushed into the jungle as well with Galio. And we don't see this too often, but ViV are trying to take the entire bottom side jungle from Revenant. Arrogance is on the top side, so can't really defend this. And part of this comes from something I wanted to highlight, but we hadn't had too much time yet. Kranix is dominating this lane. Like, Bygate was forced back very early on, and like Kranix has just been in lane, pushing the entire time. And I wonder whether this is a matchup as wait, hang on a second. I said dominating. What is going wrong? I've been watching this lane, and like Bygate was low health for the majority of it, but he is so far ahead on gold.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a total surprise.
It seemed like he was dominating, because we saw that early play, but Tyrus is getting invaded and he has none of its stress. He's going to be going, he's not going to let Arrogance get it.
Yeah, not going to let them collapse, as Janna has roamed up as well, but here comes Sharks and the rest. Arrogance has gone in, though, and now might be caught behind enemy lines. They're going to pop the plant just so that Arrogance can't get that flag and drag. Tries to block it! Doesn't quite get out, as that's going to be the kill for Sharks, and now ViV are in position around the Rift Herald. There is a package, I believe, that has been picked up, as now in goes 0-2. Galio Ultimate's going to come in, split the pack, and Kranix forced back over the wall. Floor going to try and get to safety. There's the package coming through, and Revenant are going to take this fight. As you said, they're looking to win this engage. Monsoon will heal them up, but Sharks gets caught by the tornado, and that's the swing forward from 0-2 to land a kill for himself. Rift Herald goes over to Bygate, and it looks like ViV, they've been baited into these early fights. We said that the fights were Revenants to take, and they absolutely smashed through at the Rift Herald.
I'm not quite sure why ViV Esports is trying to fight Revenant. Revenant doing an absolutely phenomenal job, by the way, during that team fight, especially Mei throwing that Janna ultimate exactly when it was needed. They were all at a very low amount of HP, so ViV Esports thought, hey, we could actually go in, but no. Mei coming in with the ultimate on Janna, healing all of his teammates, and then of course it goes back. So here we can see a replay all the way from the beginning. It starts off with Arrogance stealing away the red buff, but he went a little too deep, but it was okay, right? Like he was able to escape barely, flashes over the wall, goes to the Rift Herald. Sure, he dies, but I want you to put your eyes on Fluor as well. Fluor had to flash over the wall for that, which put him in a very bad position. And then right here, this is where the fight should be turning, right? Like this is where the fight should be turning, where Revenant should be winning. And then Corki coming in with the package as well. At this point, ViV Esports needs to escape. There is just absolutely no way you win this team fight, even in a 4 versus 5 composition. Like, you just can't win. You just can't win against this composition. So here we have a beautiful Orianna ultimate, but there it is. This is what I was talking about. Mei with the Janna ultimate, and it's easy. 0-2 engages, then he disengages. Just a very, very easy fight. Like, ViV Esports just can't do this. They're not supposed to be playing like this. And if they keep doing this, this game is going to go very badly for them, Stress.
Yeah, it will. At this rate, it will go very badly. I mean, Kranix tried to shortcut his way into the fight there by cutting down into an area that Revenant were in control of. So, I mean, I feel like perhaps ViV had as big of a misread of the game as I did, thinking about bottom lane. Like, I feel like ViV felt, okay, we've killed the jungler. Like, let's just take Rift Herald. We're ahead. We're fine. Like, last game we smashed them. We can do it again. And Revenant have kind of bounced back and said, no, we're actually in a much stronger position than we were in the last game. And I mean, in this one, Akagi on this Camille has about 1,000 gold up. It's at 1,400 between bot laners as well. But Kranix is trying to get some gold back as they're going to get the shutdown onto 0-2. That's a very important kill, as that's going to close a little bit of the gold lead between the bot laners. Floor now, he feels like he's caught Mei, but he might be caught by Baigay as Sharks is here. They can't quite put the damage out, but it's Dragon being taken, I believe, by Millip. No, Dragon is not available yet, so it looks like it was already taken during some of the action that we've had already as Rift... Oh, hang on, Sharks caught in the middle lane. Cataclysm is going to lock him in place in just enough time for the Monsoon to be able to heal them up as Baigay is low. But Rift Herald drop mid lane. Top lane, there's a fight again. We're going back to back on action here. This is under the tower. They go. Jax is there with Tyras. They've actually picked up the kill from Kranix as Jax is the one to even that kill up. I'm commentating the top lane as Rift Herald is pushing through mid, but hopefully we'll get a replay from it. Mid tower has gone down. It's scrappy overall, but ViV, they got themselves one tower and a kill in exchange for losing mid tower. Yeah, I think, and bottom tower. This game is all over the map right now.
Yes, Stress, this is how you want to play as ViV Esports. So as you can see, they've closed the gold cap already just by making one good play, right? Like, don't take the fight in mid lane, just defend it. Like, sure, they lose one turret with the Rift Herald, but they got a top lane turret, they got a kill, and the bot lane turret. This is the power of ViV Esports composition. This is how I have to play around it. I want to talk about Baigay's build, Stress. I'm seeing a lot of weird things, and I feel like we're going to get, like, I feel like EU is going to get memed for this. First of all, Solari Charge Blade. No, it doesn't work anymore like that. We look into the replay, but I want to talk about the build, Stress.
Talk about the build.
Charge Blade, yeah, Solari Charge Blade doesn't give you bonus crit anymore. It just gives you a flat 25% crit, and then it deals damage, it deals magic damage, and the magic damage can crit, but if you don't have a lot of crit, it's just not a worthy item. It's a late game item, and it's an item that's supposed to go on champions that are very, very, like, heavy with attacks, and Corki is very heavy with abilities. It's just way too early to go for it. He also has a mana mune, so with 25% crit, it's not gonna work, and he's not even going for another crit item, Stress.
Not exactly the optimal. This is the kind of time where, like, some North American content creator or caster is gonna, like, screen cap it and be like, WTF am I seeing over here in Europe? And then it's, you know, it's gonna be embarrassing. Happen. It's gonna be embarrassing for everybody, you know. Those content creators that clip out other people's regions and start flaming when ours is no better.
I'm sorry, I'm one of them, Stress.
It's all good. It's all good. You got to get a little bit of the memes. Sometimes I find myself watching other regions and be like, wow, this is awful. And then I watch European games and I'm like, ooh, Ruiz did just Valkyrie under tower, didn't he? Whoa, that's happening. And, you know. Hey, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? And, definitely here in
so
Europe.
right here, this will be very important, Stress. ByGay, I believe he doesn't have a package anymore. It seems like ViV is going to go for the fight.
Yeah, Taunt goes in under the Tower Grand Challenge. Not quite going to lock. And there's the ultimatum is going to seal Millip's fate. Overreach once again. And ViV, they are extending far too far for these fights. You cannot start this dragon. Surely not. Like, you're against a team fighting composition that still has half of their ultimates available. Like, this is suicidal at this point. As look at the flank that 0-2 has here. Now they're going to go aggressive from Revenant. Monsoon does get interrupted, so they don't get the full heal from it. And ViV have actually found the first kill of this engage. Cataclysm comes out, and they've managed to maybe team fight against a team fighting team. This perhaps should not have happened, and it is going all ViV's way. As over the wall goes Akagi. Akagi trying to get more from this exchange, but can he, as the honey fruit gets popped? That's 2 kills going over to Kranix from that, and they will be able to take the dragon.
Yeah, May was caught off guard by Tyrus on the Jax. Basically, Tyrus forced May to use his ultimate, the Janna ultimate, and then he kind of wasted it, and he still died. And you cannot get caught like that as a Janna. Of course you cannot. You have your teammates to be frontlining for you, and you're the Janna. You need to be shooting the tornadoes. You need to be giving the shields to your team. So as we look into this replay, I want to put eyes on May right here. So May is already at quite a low amount of HP. He goes with Akagi, I believe. But yeah, here we see him like, he tries to move, but here they get caught. Well, like, look at May. He's forced to use his ultimate already, but he still dies. So this really benefited ViV Esports, because now you're not up against a Janna anymore, right? Like, in the middle of the fight, you're not going to be having Janna basically healing up the entire team again. So ViV Esports took advantage of that, and they were able to win the team fight right there. Like, you can see they were able to win it, and I believe they got the dragon from it as well. So very well played by ViV Esports. It was dangerous regardless, because yet again, Revenant has the team fighting composition, and if played correctly, they should win the team fight, Stress.
Yeah, they should. Millip the one caught once again. It's the second exchange in a row that's gone this way, and perhaps Tyrus is going to look for the 1 versus 2. The redemption's not quite in time, and Tyrus has said, no, I'm going to take that exchange in response. That's four players from Revenant coming through, and Tyrus can't leap strike his way out of this one. Counter-strike, he's going to go in, try and take the fight. It's the only option he had. There was no escape available, and now it's going to have to be ViV exchanging through middle lane if they can, but Redemption once again to try and cut the minion wave. There's the revive going through, of course, on Jarvan from the Akshan kill, and now it's actually Revenant pushing down in the bottom lane. They have the minion wave, and they should be able to take it.
Yeah, we can see that ViV Esports is somewhat desperately trying to split push now with the Lucian in the top lane and then pushing the mid lane as well. But then we have another engage.
Yeah, Floor's found his way in. Sharks, 3-person shockwave does the damage up front. Can they chase it down as Sharks come up and is locking in on him? Doesn't have the damage to eat all of his health bar for now, and ViV are going to back themselves away. They used a lot as the Rift Herald is going to go bottom lane, and look at Kranix sitting back in the pocket right here, looking for that split push. As soon as they see people commit on the bottom side, he'll look to push through down that top lane as it's all the way back in the base. I guess it was just about to time out, so a little bit of a time to wait before that Rift Herald.
Yeah, and that Rift Herald is actually going to be applying a lot of pressure in the bot lane as well, especially because the Baron is going to be spawning in the top side. So let's take a look at the builds, actually. No hole breakers yet, right? Like, Tyrus is going for the Death Stance, which is an incredibly strong item. Galio with the Warmog? Warmog? Stress. I cannot explain that one.
I mean, as the not analyst, I'm not even going to try and explain it. I'm like,
if I cannot even explain it, you don't have to stress. Don't worry.
I'm glad.
I don't know.
I'm glad we're on the same page there. I was like, this is like an exam I haven't prepped for. A terrible nightmare of builds. It's my weakest part as it is anyway, as Millip is going to go aggressive, or maybe it's 0-2 that started this fight, but Millip is definitely going to try and end it. Oh, Stasis is going to time out the Grand Challenge. 0-2 played that so well. Comeuppance is not quite a bitch in this one, as Millip is going to flash forward, doesn't quite get it, and 0-2 is going to be able to take it down as ViV. They lose another member. Millip has not had the cleanest series in both of these games.
Yeah, definitely. ByGay has a package available, by the way. They've killed Millip, which is a 27-second death timer, and it seems like ByGay is not going for the package. Instead, they're trying to go for a fight without the package. You know, I understand that they want to fight in a 5 versus 4 situation, but I feel like they cannot even win that against Tyrus on the Jack stress.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I'm just, this game, from the beginning, I kind of had a very clear picture of how it should go in ViV's favor, and that, like, so many steps, the game has gone a different direction. And so much of it has been around like Millip dying and then this Lucian not getting the lead that they expected it to. So it's a very odd game. And I think respect for Revenant for like being able to take the fights and knowing where they can fight. But now mid lane, they're going to get double stunned, double taunted and taken out from this one as Akage. Can he get over the wall? He's actually going to go aggressive and try and get onto Sharks, forced to stasis, but he's still in the ultimatum. And that's going to be another kill going down. And maybe now it's ViV that have stolen control of this game once again. That's a lot of damage coming out though, and Kranix is low with the dragon spawning. Arrogance has that flag and drag, but no flash available to get back in. Dragon gonna go over to ViV.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that Revenant got caught in the mid lane like that. You really don't want to be caught like that, of course. And Fluor is looking for more.
Yeah, couldn't quite find the engage that he wanted, but damage down onto Arrogance from Sharks is enough. There's that Warmogs, maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, he's incredibly tanky. He has a lot of HP, and of course when he takes damage, after a few seconds, he's going to be regenerating it right back up, which allows him to constantly going for those aggressive engages, which he's doing again.
Bygame, Valkyrie's over the wall, Cataclysm goes in, it's actually Lucian takes the Baron, and Millip is backing away as ViV. They should have done enough from here. If they can just back away, they will have ultimate control of the side lanes. Their comp is already good at it. Comeuppance is going to lock down onto Tyras. It's not quite going to be the kill, as it's Janna that picks it up, 0-2. There's enough members of ViV dying here that they're eating through. There's the revival onto Arrogance. Now though, ViV have to utilize this Baron buff. It's Millip still has it on the Fiora. However, Tyras has got removed and Sharks did as well.
I'm very impressed with Revenant's performance right here. They're doing surprisingly well, right? Like after that first game where they got destroyed, they're doing surprisingly well in this game. And even though they did get caught a few times, besides that, they're doing an incredibly good job. And now it's Millip against Akage.
Yeah, Akage had the lead now. This is one of the things about Akshan is from a distance. Oh, we got to get that lineup. Didn't quite get it as Fleur and Millip on different pages here. Fleur now backing away is going to get taken at least low as Kranix drops low as well from this. And I mean, ViV just not quite in position. Only now had Sharks and Tyras respawned, I believe, so they weren't quite prepared for that. Millip, he should be able to take that fight, especially after the honey fruit, but has to be careful he's not pushing too far up.
Yeah, definitely. Arrogance cannot 1 versus 1 Millip. He has a hull breaker. He has a hull breaker, by the way. So we'll talk about that later. Let's take a look at this team fight. You know, Fleur going in super deep. Arrogance nearly stealing it. As you can see, the Baron was at 28 HP, but then Kranix was able to get it. Very unfortunate for Revenant, because if Revenant took this Baron stress, I believe the game would have been over. Like, this was super dangerous for ViV Esports, because as you can see, you know, they're just reviving Arrogance like that. 0-2, you know, getting the kill, boom, easy revive. And if they would have gotten the Baron on top of it as well, it would have been a 5 versus 3, maybe even killed more enemies, because if you get the Baron, you get buffed. They would have probably ended the game stress. So ViV Esports, very lucky they were able to snatch away the Baron right there.
Yeah, certainly a lot closer perhaps than it should have been, as ViV gonna try and get the kill on 0-2, couldn't complete it. But now, I believe the Baron buff just expired as Millip's dropped on those minions. So they actually did not get a lot from that. The fact that they were kind of half wiped from the fight and then had so many minion waves pushing towards us gives Revenant a real good chance at slowing this game down a little bit more and stopping the side lane pushes from ViV.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm also going to be very interested in how Millip decides to play the game from now on. We're 18 minutes into the game, no inhibitor turrets taken yet. And actually, Revenant still has a lot of turrets. They have 6 turrets, and Hullbreaker is hungry for the turrets, right? Like, Millip is going to be hungry for those turrets. And he doesn't have teleport, which I don't like, because if we look on the opposite side, it's Akage with the teleport. And even though Akage doesn't have a Hullbreaker, he's going to be able to basically keep Millip away, because as you can see, Akage is moving towards the top lane. He's going to be keeping Millip away from the turret, right? And then when a team fight happens next to the Elder Dragon, which is going to be spawning soon, Akage is going to be there much faster with the teleport stress.
Yes, this is a concept that is very fundamental of PC League of Legends. It's called teleport advantage. Teleport comes in PC as a summoner spell. What it means is, if your teleport is available and your enemy's is not, you have the advantage of being able to play way more aggressive on the side lane because you can immediately join a fight. They know that Camille will always be able to join, exactly as you said. However, ViV want to force this fight onto 0-2. They're going to go aggressive. Arrogance is here. Teleport has been cast. And what that means is now Akage is going to come into the fight. Fleur is caught here, and the rest of ViV have to back away from this. There's that advantageous move from Revenant, What it does mean, though, on the top side, Millip will be able to take the tower.
Wow.
But it depends on the second step of this. It's Elder Drake now is there in favor, potentially, of Revenant. Is there's the counter-strike being used by Tyrus. Arrogance has dropped low. Monsoon is going to heal him back up as Dragon down to half health. Millip is already crossing over. Viv just needs to delay this and buy time. Another teleport coming in, this time from 0-2 as Arrogance is out. Big stun comes through from Tyrus, but Tyrus has dropped as well. Both junglers are there. No smites available as Millip is going to get eaten by 0-2's ultimate. 0-2 swings into action as Sharks puts damage down. Kranix can't take the fight either, and 0-2 is not done yet. He's going to roll through the jungle. Can't quite get enough, but it's Akagi taking the Elder Cloud Dragon, and Revenant are still in this game.
Unbelievable. Revenant just took the Elder Dragon stress. It happened. Basically, the teleport diff, right? Like, Akagi was able to teleport. They were able to get 1 kill against ViV Esports. They were able to get that 1 kill. And then here during the replay, we can see this is a 4 versus 3 stress. This is a 4 versus 3. Revenant has a 4 versus 3 advantage. Tyrus actually had a beautiful engage after this one. But here, Mei with the ultimate healing them back up. And this is a rough position to be in as ViV Esports. You're in a 4 versus 3 situation. And what can you do? Like, sure, they did a great job. But then another teleport comes through from the action. This is the teleport diff, to be honest. Like, this is the teleport meta. There you can see it. 0-2 comes in with the teleport and destroys ViV Esports with his ultimate. Then he goes in and just gets even more kills. So honestly, it's just like macro. How is Revenant winning the macro game against ViV Esports? This is amazing.
Yeah, they've really punished Millip on the side lane where they can. Oh, they're going to punish 0-2 now, though, as he's forced to flash back away from that. In that last fight, the shockwave whiffed. We'll see whether it hits this time. Not going to be, as Sharks has already used it and already drops down. So now it's up to Kranix and the rest of ViV to try and balance his team fight back out. The culling is going to at least chunk through some of Revenant. Baron is on the cards, though. Tyrus still available. No flash as Arrogance. There's a level advantage for Tyrus. There's a steal opportunity here if Tyrus can hop over the back of it. That would need a leap strike into the pit. And I think Revenant are just going to take this. They're at 4k health. I don't think Tyrus can get anywhere near. So they're going to de-push their lanes and try and slow Revenant down. But with Elder and the Baron, Revenant are in a great position.
I love how Revenant is pushing this, right? I love how they're making sure they go for these objectives fast, because this doesn't allow Millip to split push, right? Like, if Millip split pushes, you just get the objectives for free, which means Millip is not utilizing the whole breaker. When you're in a team fight, you don't get the bonus armor, you don't get the bonus magic resist, and that's exactly what Revenant wants. Like, if they force team fights, essentially whole breaker is half of an item in a team fight, right? Like, it's not the entire item, because you're getting only half of the stats. Oh, we have another team fight.
Back into another fight as Tyrus is here, but he's half health already from this. It's going to force back behind the front line of the rest of the team as Millip. I mean, this has been a rough game, considering like Akage is so far ahead on this Camille, and now they're just going to bundle themselves up and try and push down these inhibitors as a 5-man stack. Arrogance gets caught by the shockwave a little too low on that one, forced out. The Monsoon stun comes through. Floor with a 4-person taunt is going to at least hold members of Revenant in place, and has the scaling kicked in. Have the long team fights got there finally for ViV? It's the first turret, that inhibitor going down in favor of 0-2. Nobody has died in the exchange yet, though, as Kranix is trying to find damage. ViV, they lost one inhib. And from there, Revenant will say, okay, that's what we needed to do. We needed to get one of the structures with this Baron and now try and play for the side lanes.
Yeah, Revenant really accelerating their lead right here. But honestly, ViV Esports doing a very solid job defending. They only lost one inhib against a later game Baron. We know how strong those late game Barons are, especially after 20 minutes into the game. The Baron gives so many stats. So ViV Esports being able to actually somewhat defend the Baron push and not lose like 2 or even 3 inhibitor turrets, honestly a win. It gives them another opportunity to actually potentially win a team fight and win the entire game stress.
Yeah, it certainly gives them more of an opportunity. I think the dangerous thing is that, like, we're getting to the point where Fiora and Jax are monstrously strong in the game. And Orianna. I mean, yes, Corki is strong in the late game. I know people will say that as well, but like, these picks are very strong as Floor. He's tanky. He can weather at least a couple of seconds of this engage here, and he does, and Floor backs away. We're getting to a stage where like support's in early level 15 here in this game as well. So we are into the very late game for Wild Rift. I hope we're not going 40 minutes, because we've seen those games happen once in a blue moon, and it certainly shouldn't. ViV have done a good job of holding on. Revenant have done a great job at taking the objectives where they can and utilizing this team fighting composition at moments that ViV have not been prepared.
both teams can win this game, Stress. It's not like that Revenant got the Elder Dragon that they just insta-win the game, because ViV Esports still took 3 dragons. And then, as you mentioned exactly, if we look at the compositions, Corki is not that strong in the late game. It's not as strong as the champions that ViV Esports has, which is the Fiora, Jax, Orianna, right? And then also the Galio, incredibly strong late game champion. Such a powerful frontline, and he tries to go for it again, but he just can't right now. The true damage is going to hurt him a lot more, though.
Yeah, it will do. This tower pushing down is not the main goal here for Revenant. I don't even think the inhib is. It's Baron coming up in a couple of seconds that really I think that they need to look towards as they're going to try and get an engage. Can't quite land it how they want it. There's some ultimates thrown out. But, I mean, for Revenant, securing a late game Baron like this, I mean, Jinko's video put it really clearly. Like, the later the game goes, the heavier the scaling on AP and AD and some of the other stats that come from Baron. So taking a Baron at this point in the game basically should win it for you. Floor 4 Prison Taunt again. It's the same thing happening, and there's a numbers advantage. They've already taken out one into the GA. In comes the Galio ultimate to get the entrance. Millip drops low. Sharks is dropping low as well. This is actually maybe turning back in favor of Revenant as they force out the stasis. Tyrus is in the middle of everybody. Floor Flash is over. Have they managed to outplay its Revenant? They've got the numbers advantage once again. They've taken 2 kills already. It's only Arrogance that has fallen from Revenant, and they're able to close the gap. It's Akagi dominating in this game. Arrogance has revived, and Millip, can he do enough? I don't think there's enough in the tank here for Fiora to be able to dash in. Teleport coming through. Revenant are going to shock this series and take us to a game 3 against ViV. As ViV, they couldn't hold on in this one. Revenant, we're going to game 3.
Revenant did it, Stress. This is what we wanted to see. They picked such an amazing draft. They did not allow ViV Esports to execute that composition. They did not allow Millip to split push at any second into the game. Incredible performance by Revenant, and this is gonna make the third game super interesting to watch.
Yeah, and this game goes against a lot of what I expected coming out of the draft as well. Like, I kind of felt like, okay, we'll have a bot lane advantage for ViV. They'll translate that into side lane pressure later on, but like, bot lane didn't go their way, at least after the first few minutes. And then ViV just kept taking these weird fights. Like Millip, I don't know whether it's that the rest of the team weren't applying pressure or whether Millip was overextending, but like a very uncharacteristic game where it's like he got caught out. This series, he's died a lot of times in positions on the side lane that even better teams will punish even harder.
Yeah, definitely. It just seemed like ViV Esports didn't execute their comp properly, but I also want to give credits to Revenant. Revenant didn't allow it, especially in the late game. Revenant didn't allow it to happen. Millip went for the Hull Breaker as his third item, so sure, he can split push in the late game, but he couldn't. He didn't have the teleport boots, and then Akagi countered it perfectly by going for the teleport boots himself. We saw how it played out, right? Like he was there first at the team fight at the Elder Dragon, which is this one actually, and then they were able to win that fight just because of that slight advantage. They were able to win that fight. So just Revenant really showing that they know how to play against a split pushing composition. They know how to do it and showing what they're made of. And now ViV Esports needs to get a little scared for the third game, Stress.
Yeah, for sure. I think 0-2's Akshan performance is really good as well in this matchup. Like, really on point cleaning up team fights, making sure they were getting the kills when they could. And I mean, you know, I kind of after game 1 thought, okay, ViV have got this 2-0, let's move on to our second series of the day. And certainly Revenant coming back and saying, hey, no, we can contend here. And it was an odd draft from both teams. And I think Revenant clearly look better with this engaged playstyle where between Arrogance and Millip, they can go aggressive in fights. Sorry, not Millip, Akagi. They can go aggressive in team fights and actually dictate the pace themselves. They look a whole lot better.
Yeah, definitely. And even though Arrogance went 0-6 in this game, actually, Akagi with the 12-on-4 performance, 21.7 thousand gold on him, and then 0-2 on Baige as well. All of the carries are at such a high amount of gold, just doing so much damage throughout this game. And I'm very interested to see how much damage everyone did. And if I could guess, I would probably guess that Baige still did the most damage. Yeah. Oh, wow. Akagi with 40,000 damage, Stress. That's a lot of damage for a Camille.
Camille balanced. That's why Revenant first picked Camille. I mean, you know, every time she gets through, you always kind of think, okay, she's a pretty strong pick, and certainly working for Akagi really shut down ViV. I just don't think this composition from ViV, at least the way that it was played out, worked in their favor at all. They never really had time on the side lanes, and that's the thing. We talked about a 1-3-1 composition that works best when you can avoid fights with the 3, and there were just no avoiding fights from ViV. They opted into the fights. Like they started objectives when they were down in numbers against the teleport, and that's kind of like unforgivable in those situations. This team fighting composition is always going to want to fight you like that.
Yeah, it was a bit of an uncharacteristic game from ViV Esports. It felt like to me, it didn't feel like I was watching the true ViV Esports that we've seen before, right? Like up against the one that we saw against Gamelord. Like it didn't feel like this is the ViV Esports that was up against them. I'm expecting them to pick back up and play this next game much better. But now Revenant has the confidence as well, right? Like we can win this. We can win this. So the next draft is going to be probably one of the most interesting drafts we've ever seen between these games. What kind of compositions are going to get picked and how are they going to get executed?
Well, my caster curse certainly went through, and let's take a look at the play of the game from that series, or at least from that second game of this series. I think good job in general on the action tidying up these fights. I have a feeling, okay, it's going to be the last fight. Again, another one where there was just so much damage coming from Revenant.
Yeah, Fleur actually with a beautiful engage. It was an absolutely beautiful engage. Also a beautiful ultimate, but it's just not enough, right? It's just not enough. At this point of the game with the Elder Dragon, it's not that good because it's an Elder Cloud Dragon during the team fight, but still. The true damage and then 0-2 on the Akshan. He has so many defensive stats. And if you combine it with a Janna, like no one can kill him anymore. And it was basically too late here for ViV Esports. And then to rub salt in their wounds, they even revived Arrogance on the Jarvan, which the Akshan can do, of course. Just a really, really nice performance from 0-2, to be honest, on that Akshan. He really shows that, hey, Akshan is also a viable pick and competitive.
Yep, shows that you can make it work. We see it from time to time. Snitch pulled it out a couple of last week for Rix. Let's see what Game 3 has for us. We're not too far away from that. I honestly thought that ViV were going to 2-0 through this series after watching Game 1, but Game 3 is on the cards between ViV and Revenant. We'll be back in just a few minutes to see which team closes it out in the upper bracket.
You ready?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Last Chance playoffs. And I mean, when you've got a last chance, you've really got to take it when it's there in front of you. And Revenant certainly did that in that game. That was a whole lot better team fighting than we were expecting out of that game, and a strong performance in general around what ViV were doing.
That was absolutely amazing. That was like, it feels like that's a Revenant that we haven't seen before, but they're showing that they have it in them, right? Like they're showing, hey, we can do this as well. But now it's about consistency. Can they do it consistently? Right. Can they do it the next game as well? Like, that's the real question, Stress.
That's a good question. And I mean, we heard Ryu in the interview say, well, we need to see more from Revenant before we really worry at all about them. Well, I hope ViV have seen enough to be worried and go into this game and look and close it out. ViV, I would say, is still favored. But as we head into game number 3, let's hear what Carmeline has for the key points of our last game of the series.
Hello, here I'm back with the key points. So the first thing I want to talk about is how Revenant has turned things around, something that we didn't quite expect. As Stress was saying, I think ViV wasn't even expecting something like this. But hey, similar roster, well, same roster almost as in Aphelion, but things have been looking quite different for them, which makes you wonder what could have happened back in the WREC. But hey, these are last chance qualifiers, and you know what, the playoffs. Now we're gonna see what they can truly bring to the table, and we've seen that can be quite good. The next thing we're gonna talk about is the top lane difference. Millip has been having the best of the series. Today, don't know what's happening with him. Meanwhile, Akage for Revenant is playing amazingly well, so we'll see if they can, compensate a little bit, because clearly Millip has a lot more to give than what we've seen today, at least until now. And finally, the last thing that I did want to mention, of course, is the return of Akshan, this champion that was played by the Snitch and a few other players back in WREC, is back now here. No nerves, no buzz for the champion, but it really fits a lot better in these new compositions that are coming up with this new patch. So that's been it for me. Back to the cast, Stress and Hells. Have a nice game. Bye!
I hope we have a nice game. I hope we have a fun game 3. I hope we see something new. I hope we see something different. We saw some different stuff. I think Lucian is a great solo queue pick. I don't know how useful it was in the last game, considering how many bottom laners were still open that we've seen. What are your thoughts on the Lucian?
Yeah, as you said, right, like there were so many other bottom laners that seem to do better than Lucian. Lucian is incredibly good in solo queue because he has such high damage to solo carry. But if he gets caught, right, like his mobility gets taken away from him if he gets caught. And especially by things like the Camille ultimate, you just cannot do anything against that. If a proper Camille ultimate gets hit on you, you're just dead. Or like you're just dead. You cannot utilize that mobility anymore to run away. Same goes with Akshan. Akshan can just follow you, right? Like with this hook shot, he's just much faster than just your tiny little dashes as a Lucian. So I feel Lucian could have his spot in competitive, but just not in that draft. I don't think his spot was found in that draft. ViV Esports actually chose the blue side right there, so they really want to prioritize this first pick. I believe there are, yet again, the Rakan, right? Like this time they may go for the Galio ban and then pick the Rakan, but they're sticking with their bans. Yet again, the exact same ban stressed.
This is the 3rd game we've seen a Xin Shao ban. I know Xin Shao had some adjustments, but are we expecting him to be this prominent?
It's just ViV Esports banning out the Xin Zhao, and it seems like they have looked into Arrogance. I haven't seen his Xin Zhao yet, but of course he has a ranked profile, right? And maybe ViV Esports. Yeah, there you can see, by the way, the Galio ban. So now 100% Rakan ban, right? We said it last game, or I said it last game as well. But I would 100% expect a Rakan ban right there, especially after that Galio ban, because you just don't have the tools. And again, it's open.
Well, I guess they're planning on trading Ziggs for Rakan at this point, and I think Rakan's a great first pick. What else have we got available? As Camille is off the board, Fiora is potentially there for ViV. That would, however, give Rakan Ziggs over.
Ziggs.
They're actually going to take the Ziggs in this exchange, so that probably, I mean, if we're going on draft priority from meta, like Fiora Rakan would be pretty strong here from Revenant. But if you don't, you know that ViV are going to want to take it.
They will take it. Like, if you give away if you yet again give away the Rakan and the Ziggs, like, come on, you cannot do that. Also, Vi is open, which is yet another champion that is incredibly good to combo with that golden duo. So, yeah, Fiora expected, right? Like, Fiora is one of those champions with the right post. You can counter that engage. You can counter that Mega Inferno Bomb. That's one of those champions that can counter it out. There is not many of those threats. Like, you cannot just give it to them. But let's see what they're gonna pick. They have 2 more seconds. Nami, actually.
Okay. So we saw this in finals from RICS. From Game Lord against RICS. We saw a lot of this like healing support. You build Locket of the Iron Solari, and it just Locket enchant, and it kind of reduces Ziggs' impact. However, Rakan, I think it makes it a little bit more potent. Right, you charm people up and you can get a lot done there. That's going to be an Ahri on top of it. That's high priority for Ahri for Sharks. Yeah. I wonder whether this just means they want to ban out mid lane matchups in the second draft phase.
I expect a Kai'Sa. This is 100% a Kai'Sa draft for Revenant, and we want to see those traditional ADCs a bit more. And then one of those that would work here incredibly well is the Kai'Sa, because when Nami uses her ultimate, but they go for the Corki again. Actually, it seems like they're sticking to their strengths because Corki seem to work out for them pretty well. But I want to talk about Kai'Sa. However, Kai'Sa is one of those champions after the ultimate, which is the big wave from Nami. If you hit a lot of enemies, Kai'Sa can go to the backline with her ultimate, right? Like, she's one of those champions that can go to the backline and destroy the Ziggs. But looking at the bans from Revenant right there, they're banning out the Jax. Like, yet again, it's just heavy jungle focus stress. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 junglers banned out of the 7 bans. How crazy is that?
There's so much priority towards jungle. Now, this time it will hit Viv, though, because they haven't picked their jungler. In the first game, there was the Fiora already taken.
Another one.
It's now the Wukong's going to go. I mean, Arrogance, I would imagine, is going to be playing the Fiora for this game. We are delving super deep into champions. Like, Viv likely to take the Graves, I imagine, for the solo lane, and then Vi should get banned as well from Revenant. That would be the expected one.
Oh, they banned the Graves!
Okay, so Vi should get through unless Revenant are going to pick that themselves.
Yeah.
I guess then we're at Kha'Zix from the jungle.
Unbelievable. We're running out of
crowd
junglers.
Control champions, but like Kha'Zix doesn't provide crowd control at all, so it's mostly just around picks.
It's crazy that we're literally running out of jungler stress. We haven't seen this happen too often. Akshan actually being banned out seems like a respect ban after losing that second game. I guess this is what Rio was looking for, right? Like, when you ban out those champions, when you ban out a champion like an Akshan, who is normally really not a good champion, you now know that ViV Esports truly respects Revenant. And this is what's going to make the third game especially good, because now I feel like ViV Esports is really going to take the game 100% serious. Because I feel like they kind of entered this series like, yeah, we're just going to wipe the floor with them. They actually do. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. They just picked the Vi to just deny it from Tyrus. I mean, I'm in disbelief right there. What is he going to pick? Which junglers are left?
Right?
Kha'Zix
is the only... Maybe there's something that we're forgetting, but like of the traditional jungle pool, like Kha'Zix is the remaining one. I mean, we have a Riven jungle we've seen from time to time, but Nunu is going to be the disengaged jungler that we see from time to time. Typically, you see him built with like compositions that want to play very long range. So now we get to see where Viv go for top lane matchup. There's a lot available, like Darius, or okay, it's going to be an Aurelia for side lane. Viv are playing a very clear side lane split push composition, just in general. That's Aurelia Baron lane. We've seen Aurelia mid lane out of the Dawn from Formulation, but this is going to be Aurelia Baron lane against Fiora.
It's a very heavy AP composition by ViV Esports, by the way. This is a very, very, very heavy AP. They have 4 AP champions and then the Aurelia. So it kind of opens up the possibility for Arrogance on the Vi to be building a lot of magic resist, right? And then also Akagi on the Fiora also be building a lot of magic resist to be a pretty strong front lines. This is going to be very interesting. I love these. I love this draft, by the way. I absolutely love this draft, right? With the Aurelia pick especially. We love those crazy picks. Akali as well. These are the things that are very like, you have to dare to pick them. It's not like you just pick them. You have to dare to pick them.
I think if I'm going on like what feels better from the last patch and that kind of thing, like I would say Revenant's draft, I prefer it. I think it has a little bit more of a direct way of playing. You have some very, very straightforward ideas. Whereas like whenever you bring a Nunu now, I have to look at like, okay, who's going to be able to actually put damage out consistently. I think Ziggs and Aurelia can do. It just doesn't quite fit in the way that I've looked at the game in previous patches, but we are on a different patch. We are looking at different builds, different champions, different items. So those are the adaptations that I think have that room for ViV. And game one, they looked so confident in their ability to play side lane. Game two looked the opposite. So now it just depends which ViV are going to show up in this game. But Revenant, once again, have some decent team fighting to bring to the table.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, Stress, I'm still baffled by this draft. I think we had 8 or 9 jungle bans, and then another one being picked just to pick it away. I just find it a crazy draft to see. And okay, so let's see. It's indeed mid up on the Aurelia. I believe we haven't seen mid up on the Aurelia yet. No,
we haven't seen much Aurelia Baron lane as it is at all. Really have only seen it as a pocket pick for formulation. So yeah, it's an interesting draft in comparison. This time, I think ViV's bot lane is, I mean, this is the duo that we've talked about. Like Ziggs, Rakan dominated game one. Game two, it did not look so good on the Lucian setup from ViV. This time, though, I think this should be everything they need to get through the early game and into those team plays very effectively.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about the Aurelia pick right here, because when I'm looking at the composition of Revenant, they have the answers to it, right? Like, sure, Akali, sure, Corki, sure, Nami don't really have a big answer to Aurelia because she can constantly dash around. But if you look at the Fiora with her Grand Entrance, she can destroy Aurelia. If you look at the Vi with her ultimate and her first ability, she should be able to do a lot of damage to the Aurelia and lock her down. I feel it's going to be a very rough game for Milip, especially if he's going to be up against Akagi and Arrogance. But we already have a gang coming from Tyrus.
Snowball comes rolling into the middle lane as 0-2 gets locked down despite being in the Shroud. He knew exactly where those snowballs had to hit. Now Arrogance is going to be forced to flash out. Doesn't quite take enough damage to drop, but that's an important first engage, going heavily over to ViV.
I guess even banning away 10 junglers is not enough against Tyrus. This man can play it all. Like, this man can play it all. And Fleur is already right here, ready to be helping out Tyrus in case someone wants to go for it. But Revenant shaking hands, taking the bot lane scuttler, you know, makes sense. They don't want to be fighting up against Tyrus, especially after wasting that flash from Arrogance.
Yeah, and I mean, yesterday we had junglers, we had supports staying out of lane for like the majority of the early game. Milip just ate that riposte and did not land the follow-up damage. So definitely not what he's looking for, as Tyrus is going to build a snowman up in the top lane. I mean, he's on a ward, so Akagi shouldn't get caught here. Akagi should know everything that they need from that top lane. Aqua Prism lands bot lane, floor takes a little bit of damage, but we're going to settle back in the lanes as the first recalls come out.
And Aaron is actually going to be getting quite a significant lead in the jungle, as he's already cleared out his entire jungle. Meanwhile, Tyrus, we know he failed that gank, which means he wasted a lot of time. So it's going to take him like half a minute longer to get to that same power spike as Arrogance got. And this opens up possibilities for Arrogance to go for some ganks, because Arrogance got his level 5 and he wants to use his ultimate now. And before you ask me why, let me explain. Because if he uses it a little later, he's not going to have it available for the first dragon anymore. So he wants to use it now, so he can still get it off cooldown. So like right now is the maximum, and I assume he's going to be going for a gank on Sharks, although Sharks does have a ward waiting for it.
It could be going for bot lane, because look at how far pushed up ViV are. There's the satchel charge that was just used by Kranix, and the one thing about this ultimate is without his flash available, he will be taking a one-way trip, so needs to convert the kill and not be taken out, as doesn't find the opportunity. And I think that window that you were talking about has kind of closed now.
Yeah.
But it will allow them to buy time to get that flash back up. Tyrus is here in the middle lane, knows that he's not warded, has swept that bush, but there's nobody there in middle lane to collect it, as it's bot lane that Sharks has appeared on. It's an early swap, a couple of seconds earlier than normal, as Kranix is now in the middle lane to make sure they can absorb that minion wave.
And if the observer could show the builds, that would be very nice, because I'm very curious. There it is. I'm very curious. No one has a finished item yet. And this is going to play very well into the first objectives, because the first objective is spawning. Corki is going to have a package. And I believe no one even has enough gold to get an item. Yeah, no one has enough gold. For some reason, it seems like Baige is not going for the Mana Mune. Oh, he is. He sold...
Did he undo off a purchase, perhaps?
No, he sold it, I think. He went back and he sold the crit item and he got his Mana Mune.
Interesting. We'll have to kind of take a look at that as the package.
He uses it already.
That's suspect, I'm going to be honest. They're going to get the Rift Child and rush it down, though, as Floor...
Oh,
it's stolen! The Nunu comes through. You cannot outsmite the Yeti. And it's first blood going over to Millip as it's all gone Viv's way. Too much, perhaps, was used up front as Revenant have been able to pick up a number of kills on the back end. Tyrus drops to the Phosphorus Bomb, and Viv, they lose a number of players. They lose 3 overall, but do get the Rift Herald.
ByGay, what are you doing? What was that package? He went all the way back just to get his package, just to then waste it to jump over a wall. ByGay, that's not how you use a package. And honestly, that cost them this fight. If he had used a proper package, he could have completely isolated the champion very easily from ViV Esports, and they would have just dominated the team fight. Instead, they lost the Rift Herald, and ViV Esports is very likely going to actually be giving away the Dragon. So let's take a look at it again. ByGay with no more package. Here it is, just ViV Esports game, right? Like Rakan goes in, charms everyone, Tyrus steals the Rift Herald, and then here, Sharks as well. You know, what happened?
Yeah, I mean,
like this was amazing for ViV Esports.
You've got to look at it that even with the kills going over to Revenant, like crowd control should easily have been able to stop Nunu from ever getting there, right? That should have been straightforward.
Very easy.
So as we go through, Dragon did get taken by Revenant in that exchange. You just saw the twin shadows, the ghosts come out from floor to try and get some vision and slow people down, but this is an odd beginning of the game. As you said, I don't know about that package from ByGay. We'll have to keep an eye on the rest of his packages from this game.
Yeah, and ViV Esports, as I said, you know, they gave away the Dragon. They just pushed out the top lane turret with the Rift Herald they got, and that gave quite a significant advantage to Millip. Millip sitting on 5,200 gold, up against Akagi, who's sitting on 4,500 gold. Quite a significant lead, really. And 0-2 on Sharks, I think, yeah, seemingly going all in, but really nothing happened right there, to be honest.
Yeah, not a lot happened as another engage in the top lane as Akage, I believe, riposted out some of the crowd control, or at least denied the engage from Riv. From Viv, as mid lane Floor is on a ward. He's going to go aggressive. Can't quite get that, as that's going to be enough to end that exchange. Akage is going to get snowballed on. Yeah. Will get dropped. Arrogance goes in with the Assault and Battery as well, and they're going to try and buy enough time for Millip to stay alive. Couldn't quite get it as Arrogance is ticking. Was the red buff enough? Mega Inferno Bomb can't quite punch the way away, as there's a good knock up onto 2. Heal comes through to try and keep ByGay alive. Doesn't have his flash available though from that last exchange. The auto attack didn't land. The Ludens didn't quite pick up the kill, and ByGay somehow gets himself away thanks to that barrier.
And this is exactly why Tyrus decided to put the Rift Herald in the Baron lane, right? Like to get Millip ahead. And we saw in that team fight, which I'm sure we're going to be seeing a replay of, there it is, how strong Millip is right now, right? Like, as I said, normally Fiora can destroy an Irelia. Same with Vi, right? Like, these are champions that work very well into Irelia. But here we can actually see Millip on the Irelia doing a very good job and nearly being able to kill both of them with the support of Tyrus. So that is the power that ViV Esports has right now. And the item that he's going for is Divine Sunderer. Divine Sunderer Irelia. I've not seen or tried it before. I think it could be a very strong item, Stress.
Yeah, I mean, we normally see Irelia opting towards like Trinity Force, right? And it just gives you the damage to kill people very quickly. Obviously, you mentioned this in a previous game, like Divine Sunderer is going to give you a little bit less damage overall, but more survivability, a little bit more, tankiness, and that you can basically just take some of the health back. But I mean, Irelia just kind of wants to kill things quick. She likes to get kills very fast and reset through fights, but we'll see how that goes. It used to be that building towards tanky Irelia on PC was not exactly the most useful thing in the world. However, with the Blade of the Rune King and Divine Sunderer, she's still going to have a bunch of damage.
And the real question is, are we going to see one useful Corki package throughout this entire series? I'm going to be real honest with you, Stress. We've had 3 games now, and ByGay has pretty much wasted. I believe he wasted every single package. And now during the next Dragon, I really hope to see a truly game-changing package coming through from ByGay right there, as he builds his Solari charge bit as well. He has 2 items, and I believe nearly finished off the Muramana. That would be such a huge power spike, which should allow them to win the fight very easily in the next Dragon. Oh,
Arrogance is spotted going over the ward by Viv, and they're going to close in on him with 25 seconds until this Drake. He will not be there for the fight, and despite the fact that ByGay does have that package, I don't know that there's too much of an opportunity for Revenant to actually take this objective. Oh, it's not going so well.
What? What's happening? What sorry, Stress, but what's happening in this game? We see a random packet. Oh, this is what's happening.
ByGay's got caught in this exchange. Rift Herald charges. It's not going to be enough to take down the tower. Kranix will get that with the satchel charge when they can get there, but it's Dragon going over as his top lane fight. Akage can't quite take this fight as Millip is now backing away. ByGay is coming up here as well. Revenant are going to try and take the fight while they're losing the Dragon on the bottom side. They want any kind of constellation prize. Millip can't get out of this one, surely not, as he's going to try and dart his way through the fight. No, double stun, he gets out! Oh no, Assault and Battery under the turret. No way is Millip going to outplay this. He's going to dash away. This has gone so horribly wrong for Revenant. It was a 4 versus 1, and Millip has got away with a kill. He's going to overextend under the tower. He thought he could get 0-2 in that exchange. Could not. I mean, Millip had already done everything he needed to. Arrogance is not having the best game in this one. This third all-important game of the last chance qualifiers is not going Arrogance's way.
Wow, and as we look into this replay, as you can see, this was seemingly a free kill for Revenant. 0-2 even flashing, using his ultimate, but it's just not enough. Millip, like, oh, he just dodged the Akali ultimate, but it stuns both of them. And then Arrogance is like, no, I have none of this. He goes under the turret, but still unable to kill him. And this is the power of Divine Thunderer, Stress. This is the power that the bonus healing provides you. It gives you so much sustainability. But here, unfortunately, ended up going a little bit too far. 0-2 with a beautiful counter to re-engage and being able to pick up the Aurelia, regardless of that amazing fight right there.
Millip was trying to predict the Akali follow-up so that when Akali landed, she was stunned and just mistimed it, went early. That would have been like, it was already a highlight play, but if it had killed Akali there as well, that would have been like series redeeming performance from Millip, because his game 1 and 2 were a little bit shaky. Arrogance, however, caught out in the jungle again. ViV are really punishing this Vi here. Like, Arrogance is struggling to get into the game. Even if he doesn't drop, Sharks will pick up the kill. I was going to say, even if he doesn't drop, he's forced back away. There's 1 kill from 0-2, but going in that far is going to cause 0-2 to drop low himself. Wave. The bouncing bomb plus the wave was not quite enough to keep him alive. Kranix now maybe in trouble, is forced to flash out. Oh, rockets are going to tag him. He was burning for a moment, but Kranix is able to get out alive. Will take the honey fruit to survive just off the back of that fight. No, wow, this is a very tense exchange as Kranix is trying to find ByGay with the bouncing bomb. Does get it, doesn't have the ultimate available, but it will be up soon.
And Stress, this is a very intense series. I'm just sitting here on the edge of my seat, constantly waiting for something to happen, and then plot twist after plot twist during team fights. It's just the craziest series that we've seen, really. May, unfortunately, completely missing his ultimate in that fight right there. That was Revenant's fight to take, because ByGay was able to dish out a lot of damage on that Corki, but Millip going for the 1v4.
Yeah, come on, Millip. Come on. You're feeling your oats way too hard. Literally 1v4. Like, actually 1v4. Like, you look at the map at the beginning of that play, nobody was nearby.
Stress, I don't know what to say. This is like...
Me neither.
This is not... you know what's funny about this game? As you can see, I'm having a hard time saying what I want to say, because it's funny because it feels like these are incredibly good players, but it also feels like they're trolling. Like, half of it is such amazing gameplay, right? Like the games that we saw from Millip, dodging out all of those things, winning the 1 versus 3. And then the other half is just Corki using his package to kill a big minion or something, right? And then Kranix finger slipping and using his ultimate somewhere else. It feels like both of these teams are feeling the pressure now, right? Like, this is the pressure that you're going to be feeling. You're not going to be performing perfectly because of the pressure. Finger slips may happen a bit more often, right? Misplays may happen a bit more often. Miscalculations may happen a bit more often. We can see it happen clearly in this series, where it's Revenant against ViV Esports in a 1 against 1, and the next game really showing whether you're going to the upper bracket or the lower bracket, Stress.
Yeah, my gut feeling about this game is like a couple of these exchanges, the teams are trying to like finesse the other one, like try and outplay micro-wise. Like in that exchange where we saw Millip survive through, like Akali could have just got the kill. Like they could have just got it, and then Millip is able to outplay. But they're taking so many opportunities to outplay instead of just playing their comp, which we're not in a finals. We're not at the absolute top tier of European Wild Rift. And that's not meant as disrespect. But what I mean is, like, for ViV, we know how strong of a macro team they are, and as they go aggressive, like, why is Akagi over this side of the map? This is the kind of moment that I'm talking about, and both teams have done this throughout this series. Millip just did it a minute ago, and Akagi's like, all right, my turn to overextend 1v4.
It's very interesting indeed to see, like, they're being caught off guard very well, but it was also ViV Esports following up perfectly with Millip. By the way, Millip Hullbreaker stress. He has a Hullbreaker, and I love this item. I love the split pushing meta. Ooh, they're going for 0-2.
Yeah, it doesn't get knocked up by the snowball. That none of the ults really land, and they're just going to take the tower from it and back themselves away. Yeah, Hullbreaker on that Aurelia, you were saying.
Yeah, Hullbreaker on the Aurelia. So split push Aurelia, I don't like it personally, but it seems like Millip is going to be playing in those Baron lanes a lot, and we saw Revenant. They were able to counter it in the second game, right? Like, they were able to force out those fights as a 5 versus 4. So let's see how they will do it in this game. Yet again, Corki has a package and the Baron is up. Although I feel he may actually save it for the Outlaws. Like, Millip, yet again.
Same thing. This time the team is a little bit closer, as Millip is going to try and dash in, does get the first kill, will flash himself out, has managed to survive, but he was found in the end by 0-2 under the tower. Akagi goes down. ViV, this time they were close enough to actually compensate for it and take themselves another tower. ViV, I feel like maybe now is the point of the game where they can actually turn this really up in the pressure, as Cyrus gets jumped on. Baige will get taken out by Fleur. This is why we do not see him get Rakan very often in this duo. That's another kill going down. The ace completed for ViV. They're going to back away and look to take some more objectives.
ViV Esports playing this beautifully as a team, right? Like, we thought that Millip got caught out right here. It's a 1 versus 3. But then ViV Esports, yet again, perfectly roaming around to Millip. They also have the Cloud Dragon, by the way, so they're able to roam around to him very easily. And here they saved him. And sure, he died, but it's totally worth, right? Like, ViV Esports with the 5-man dive. And then Revenant trying to get kills in a 2 versus 4 situation. Yet again, not quite good usage of the package, as we can see in this replay. Baige desperately trying to kill Tyrus, but jumps into the snowball with the second charge of his dash, and then dies off, and then Arrogance dies as well. Very, very good fight by ViV Esports. And here, they just take a free Baron. Yeah. And right now, it's a snowball, right? Like, this, you can snowball disadvantage. They just won't allow Akagi to do anything on that Fiora, because Millip has the Hullbreaker. What I expect is a 1-3-1. Put Millip in the bot lane or in the top lane. I think it's going to be the bot lane this time. And then put another champion in the top lane, or they're just going to push the mid lane. But Millip is going to be pushing one of those side lanes. And no one can take care of him, Stress.
No one really can take care of him unless he's 1v4 again, and that's happened enough times. Happened enough times in this game that I don't count out that it happens again. Arrogance is going to get caught, at least for a moment. Does back away as Floor is going to push the minion wave through with the Baron buff up, so buying time as it's 0-2 up against Millip on that side lane. It's all just about the waiting game from ViV. They have the Baron buff. They know that they can take it, as Baige takes a lot of damage. There's the stun landing. Millip actually goes back in on this again. It's about patience on the side of ViV, but they say, no, we have the damage. We're going to take the kill and look for the first inhibitor of the game to drop, as Baige gets half health by one bomb by the looks of things. Now it's the move towards the mid inhibitor. 0-2 just went in. 1 versus 5. That is not the last ditch attempt you were looking for. It's the last chance of this game. Damage. And that chance is gone as the damage comes through. ViV will close this out. It was not the prettiest, not the best Wild Rift game you'll see, but 2-1 on the series from ViV over Revenant in a much tougher series than we were anticipating ViV would have had.
It was the messiest game that I've ever seen in the WREC. I loved it. I loved every bit of it, but that was messy, right? Like, ViV Esports needs to talk again with each other. Like, okay, guys, this was not good. Even though we won, this was not how we want to win, right? We heard it from Ryu. They're expecting to win 2-0, and we were expecting it to, and they should have won 2-0, but it didn't go as smoothly. Like, Revenant could have taken this game, Stress.
Yeah, there were moments that Revenant, I feel like coming off that second game where I was like, ooh, okay, Revenant may be able to do it. And I mean, Baige, I think that there was obviously the packages I think we got to look at as a key factor of Corki. You always have to build it in, but always Corki will be a threat. We saw these fights that Corki was able to tidy up in the back, and I think if ViV had been any sloppier, it possibly would have been problematic. In my mind, Kranix and Floor in games 1 and 3 looked really solid in general. Like, I don't have too many faults with what they were doing, but ViV were playing this game as if they won it before they loaded in. And I'm not a fan of seeing teams do that in general, because we saw Revenant nearly turn it around. Like, they won game 2 of this series.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we talked about indeed. It seemed like they were a bit overconfident perhaps, right? Like this is an easy game. We're just going to go through it very easily. But no, it's not. Revenant has what it takes to beat out a team like ViV Esports. And Revenant is going to have one last chance in the lower bracket. And I feel they may show some good performance. You know, if they talk about what happened in this series, if they talk about what went wrong, if they talk about those packages, they may do a little bit better. Jokes aside though, very, very well played by Revenant regardless. And I feel this is also a team that has the potential to get very high in the WREC.
Yeah, we'll watch their progress through the lower bracket. I think that there are so many teams that we expect a lot out of, and ViV are one of them. That for Revenant, this time around, I don't know whether there are enough spots at Barcelona for Revenant to make their way through. But what I would say is, like, when they were playing aggressively and when they were playing well, that's the kind of play style that worked well for them. And that's what I would want to see more out of, because this time it just looked a little bit rough around the edges. Like, Arrogance was caught out a lot on the weak side of the jungle. So yeah, overall a 2-1 series, not the series I was expecting coming into today.
Yeah, definitely not the series that we were expecting. This series turned way more interesting than we had anticipated, and I think the next one will as well. We have some amazing games coming today, and here we can see Millip actually dealing the most damage on the Irelia, right? Like, Tyrus was focusing on the Millip throughout the entire game, putting that with Herald in his lane, helping him win his lane. Millip did show off, as you can see, he did do well, although he did int a few times, as we saw. He went 1 versus 4 in that jungle, but besides that, Millip did an amazing job hard carrying this game. And we said it, if there's one player that can pull, or if there is a player that can pull off champions like the area, it's going to be Millip, and I'm expecting to see more of that coming very soon as well.
Yeah, I was also interested to see how ViV kind of handled all of the jungle bans. I mean, this last game, I think we had 8 champions that could play jungle banned or picked away from them. So I'm interested to hear a little bit about that and how Tyrus feels about that kind of impact on his champion pool. But the Nunu in the last game worked out exactly how they needed it to. You know, flash forward, gets the seal away on the first dragon and kind of opened the game up. But yeah, it was a fun series to watch overall. I want to hear a little bit about how the team feel about it. And it's perfect to know that we actually are going to an interview with Tyrus right now with Caroline.
Hello everyone, we're back here. In this case, we're with Tyrus once again, jungler for ViV Esports, who just won. So first of all, hello and congratulations.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Well, the first question by Stra's petition, I need to ask you, how do you feel about the impact on your champion pool due to the many bans that Revenant directed towards you?
I mean, we're certainly not expecting that many bans on the jungle side, but it's not like I'm having any restrictions in my champion pool, so that would matter to us. And we definitely showed in a few other matches in the past that we can adapt to any sort of bans that are targeted towards our players.
Okay, so we'll see next games what happens, but also when we were talking with Rio in the beginning of the show, we were saying like he was telling us maybe a 2-0 versus Revenant. He didn't really, he knew the team, but he had to see more of them. How do you feel about this series going 2-1? Did you expect this?
I mean, to be honest, no, we did not expect it. We kind of choked, let's be honest. After the first game, it was like very one-sided, and I think everybody let their guard down a little bit and went a little bit too relaxed into the second game. And yeah, the second game was a wake-up call, definitely, so we had to sort ourselves for the third game and just played safe because we knew that we are probably the better team going into the series.
Just one last question here, Tyrus, is what are you looking forward to in the next games? What are your plans going to be? How are you going to prepare for those?
For the next games, I would like to just take a closer look at the changes of the meta, because we had a huge patch 2 days ago, and it's kind of rough to adapt on the spot, especially when we don't have such a huge backup in coaching staff, for example. And so we're trying to just look for what the other teams are doing, what's working, what doesn't work, and try to implement some of these things maybe into our gameplay, but still keep it in our own style, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, let's see if you can keep winning ViV style. But for now, that's it. Thank you very much for coming here. And I'm throwing it back to the casters, stress and thoughts. Thank you.
Great to hear from Tyrus. I think that's a fair way. To be honest, coming out of game one draft in the game, I was like, wow, ViV are so prepared on this patch. Like, they've done their homework, they're ready, everything's good. But as Tyrus said, the patch changed so much that I think that was a bit of a wake-up call coming from game two. So I think as the dust settles, this is probably, and I don't say this in a negative way, I think that this will be a series that's forgotten about because the result goes the way that ViV would have expected anyway. There's some learnings to take from that game. As we look at the play of the game, I think ViV will kind of breathe a sigh of relief to get out of that situation with the 2-1 win and advance to the upper bracket semi-finals.
Yeah, definitely. So the play of the game is when the dive actually worked for Millip, as you can see here. ViV Esports perfectly following up Millip with a really amazing dive. Like, he did so much damage right there and going out, you know, basically winning this team fight on his own. And then right here, ViV Esports having the perfect counter to the engage of Baige with the unfortunate package, and then the other dash, which Tyrus countered with a snowball. ViV Esports is very easily closing out this game right here. It was the game-winning team fight, I believe. Like, from this point, there was just no real comeback from Revenant anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty much done in that exchange. Yeah, I think that's a good learning series, and the fact that ViV get away with it with a win, I think is going to be a really important moment. I think for me, there was one player that was as consistent as we've come to expect, and as we check out our MVP, I'm pretty certain that it's going to be Floor. for at least the 2 games of Rakan were very, very good, and I think even the Galio game was good too.
Yeah, the thing is about Fluor, very consistent, as you said, right? Like, even the game that they lost, remember that Warmark Galio? We actually did an incredibly good job in that game as well. He got those crazy 4-man taunts during team fights, very good ultimates. So he was not the problem. And here, you know, here in this game as well, just doing a solid job in every single game. Like Fluor here with the Galio, doing what he has to do, even though they lost the game. And then in the third game, we saw it too with the Rakan, still doing a solid job. First game, he absolutely hard carried. So yeah, there is not anyone that would get the MVP besides Fluor in this series.
Yeah, have to agree on that. I think Fluor definitely sits in the discussion of our top supports. I think still, I feel like Hester has that on lock for me personally, but like Fluor is right there in that next tier where, you know, he just has impact in most games. It just kind of depends on how the rest of ViV look around him. I think when ViV have the advantage, Fluor looks unstoppable. And certainly at a lot of points in this series, he looked good. That is ViV versus Revenant done for the day. It is our second series coming up soon. Formulation versus Control, 2 fan favorites, or at least from me. I love both of these teams. So it's kind of going to be heartbreaking to watch as Formulation take on Control when we come back in just a few minutes.